My live cut out during my sleep live last night. It seems to either stay for a half hour or 4 hours in. But I'm literally gonna do nothing but I need to blow my nose. Lay here for a minute. Because why not? We might even go back to sleep for a minute. I don't know. This is too damn early for me. I'm not up at this time normally. At all. Let's see if any of my people come in. Let's see. Anyways, I need a napkin to blow my nose. When I'm coming back into bed. That's how we do it around here. Hold on, let me get to the bathroom. Okay, so we can bring this over here. Oh man, anyway. I'll tell you what, my back feels really good now that I'm using this magnesium lotion. Really, really good. Just rub that on every damn day. Oh. What's everyone doing today on your Sunday? I still feel like I need to blow my nose again. Hold up. Wait a minute. 10 toes in. starting to look like a mess again. Lounge live. Lounge around live. I seriously cannot believe I'm up at like 8 a.m. today. I never do that. I'm always up at like 1 a.m. What is wrong with me today? Why 8 a.m.? Dude, don't fall. Clean my ears right now. You guys ever clean your ears with hydrogen peroxide? It's the best. What is everyone doing, huh? I'm just gonna lay in bed a little longer, check my apps, check my Uber apps, but in all honesty, I don't want to do shit right now because I'm never up at this time. Oh. Let's see here.
Okay guys, so today I'm going to share something with you really personal that...
Okay. Share away. All these inspirational videos. I gotta redo my chandelier. I gotta redo that. I guess my stuff doesn't look too messy in the background. Doesn't look too messy, right? I just have a box out. My kitchen's clean. It's pretty clean. My little kitchen. I always feel like it's messy because it's like so small in here in my RV. I have my cleaning products on the counter. I could remove that. Anyways, I'm gonna clean my ears right now. If you've never done this, I highly recommend doing it. You just get a bottle of hydrogen peroxide. I fill the cap and then I pour some of this in my ear. And it cleans out all the bacteria. And I highly contribute that to not getting sick because, you know, imagine mold in dark spaces in your ear and you're just breathing that because it's right by your nose, you know. So you can smell when your ears start smelling moldy. Just stick your finger in there and then smell it to your nose, and if it smells moldy, then you need to clean it. Alright, so major drama, Blue Ivy, Beyonce and Kim Kardashian. Dance party at Beyonce's. Episode 7, The Big D, The Big Divorce. Live in Miami. Where's my oh, here they are, right here. AirPods. Dance party at Beyonce's. Dance party at Beyonce's. Bought 22 acres with zero money. How you can buy a farm with $0 and turn it into a cash cow. Yeah, if you want something in the mid-state where it's really hot and there's a bunch of hurricane. But that's not happening in California.
And this happened to me in 2009 in the TeulaTwolah Valley, on the far western edge of Grand Canyon National Park. I was part of a backcountry maintenance crew, Navajo and Cherokee mixed, but raised Cherokee in Oklahoma. I worked seasonal gigs with the Park Service, trail repair, backcountry water surveys, campsite rehab. I liked the solitude. My last assignment that fall was solo. Pack in with a mule, check trail erosion along the Lava Falls route, and inspect a remote ranger shelter that hadn't been touched since spring. It was dry that year. The Colorado ran low, bronze-colored, lazy. Heat shimmered off the basalt walls.
Sounds like some AI
The
story.
isolation out there is absolute. No cell service, no tourists, just raw desert cliffs and the kind of silence that presses into your bones. I was camped by a shelf of red rock 3 miles from the shelter. Too rough to make it all in one day with a mule. I figured 2 nights max. That was the plan. Things started going sideways the first night. The mule, Sage, started acting off before sundown. Ears pinned, stomping, nose flaring like something was on the wind. I chalked it up to coyotes or maybe a mountain lion. I set up camp like usual. Small fire, coffee, jerky, and turned in early. Around 2 a.m. I woke up sweating. Not from heat, there was this pressure in the air, like something was watching. The mule snorted sharp, then fell silent. No stomping, no harness clink, just gone. I grabbed the flashlight and stepped out barefoot into the cold dirt. The air was dead still. I followed the drag marks from the picket line for maybe 20 yards, flashlight beam bouncing off lava rock and dust. The tracks just stopped. No blood, no signs of struggle. The mule was just gone. I stayed up until dawn with my .30, 30 in my lap. Next morning I hiked to the shelter, couldn't leave without filing the report. Took the rifle, lightened my pack. The shelter was a corrugated shack bolted into a sandstone bluff, barely big enough for 2. Everything looked undisturbed until I opened the storage bin inside. Something had torn through it from the inside, not opened. Torn, bent the metal back like a sardine can. Inside, shredded canvas, claw marks on the cooler, and tufts of coarse black hair, 3 inches long, bristled like wild pig but straighter. The claw marks didn't match Bear. Spacing was wrong, 4 digits, not 5. Long cuts, more like hooked talons than claws. I took a few samples, stuffed them in a bag. That's when I heard it. A scream, not human, high-pitched, guttural, and long. It echoed down the canyon like it came from every direction. I froze, then I bolted. Half slid, half ran the slope back toward camp. I didn't make it. Just before the ridge, I found blood, fresh. A smear across rock, then a boot, not mine. Old-style hiking boot, cracked leather and dried mud caked thick. And inside it, flesh, tendon, bone fragment. The whole damn foot was still in it. I nearly threw up. I grabbed it by the laces and kept going. Back at my camp, everything was overturned. My gear, the food bag, even the rifle was snapped in half at the stock. That's not something a cougar can do. I know mountain lions. This wasn't one. The prints around camp confirmed it. 4 toes, wide pad, claw tips that sank nearly an inch into hard ground. Gait was wrong too. Too heavy for a cat, too straight for a bear. I had no comms, no mule, no weapon. Nearest trailhead was 16 miles of switchbacks and sun. I filled 2 bottles from the Solar Still, strapped my pack tight, and booked it. Around mile 5, I heard it again, behind me. That same scream, but closer, followed by stone fall. Then another sound, bone snapping. I turned and saw the movement across the ravine, 7 feet tall, maybe more. Gaunt but broad, with long arms that swung wide as it moved. Its skin was dark gray or maybe dusty black, mottled. Its head looked wrong, elongated with no clear eyes or ears. It had a thick ridge along the skull and a mouth that hung open too far like a nightjar. Inside, rows of short, hooked teeth. I couldn't tell if it saw me, but it was smelling, sniffing the air slow like a bloodhound. Then it dropped on all fours and moved fast. Too fast for something its size. I dove off the trail. I rolled into a wash and lay still under a fallen juniper, heart pounding. It passed me at a run, didn't stop. But 20 minutes later, I heard screams again. Human this time. I climbed out, crept toward the ridge. What I saw will never leave me. Two hikers, both young, early 20s, were running down a canyon spur. The thing was behind them, bounding. It reached the girl first, took her from behind in one leap, jaws closing over her shoulder and neck. She went down without a sound. The boy didn't look back. Smart. He kept running, vanished around a bend. I stayed hidden until it finished. It fed fast, violent, precise, like it knew where to bite. Then it did something strange. It dragged her body to a crevice and covered it with rocks. Not random, deliberate. It packed the stones tight, camouflaging the site. Predators don't bury food. By nightfall, I'd made it to a rock ledge halfway to the trailhead. I built a fire knowing it might attract it, but I figured better light than dark. That night, it returned. I didn't see it, but I heard its breathing. It stayed just beyond the firelight. Slow steps circling, then a growl. Not loud, not aggressive, measured, studying me. I didn't sleep. At dawn, I sprinted, every muscle burned. I hiked 10 miles without a break, adrenaline pushing through the heat. I didn't stop until I saw the backcountry ranger shack. I pounded on the door like a madman. Inside was Ranger LaSalle, mid-50s, stoic. Heard me out, mostly silent. When I got to the part about the hikers, he nodded once, then opened a drawer, pulled out a file. Inside were photos, claw marks, hair samples, boot fragments, even a map. Dozens of red X's across the canyon's western fringe. Missing people, off-trail hikers, river guides, climbers, all vanished between 1997 and 2008. He showed me the earliest report, 1993. A Paiute guide out of Whitmore Wash claimed to see a big black crawler with no face. His party found 2 corpses with crushed rib cages. They called it the Hollow Maw. He said it's not known to the public. Park policy is always exposure, dehydration, fall injury. But rangers know. The thing hunts seasonally, late summer to fall. It nests in lava tubes. Comes out when prey is scarce. Buries what it doesn't eat, marking caches. He said it's not territorial, it migrates. Always moving, always tracking prey densities. Smart, adaptive. I asked why nobody warned visitors. He said the canyon gets 5 million visitors a year. You think they'll come if they know there's a predator we can't track, can't trap, and can't kill. I never went back. I filed my report, then I left the parks job, moved east, started fixing trucks, staying out of woods. But I still dream of that scream, and the way it moved. And that moment when it stared across the canyon and tilted its head, like it recognized me, like it remembered. My name is Nolan TeulaTwolah, and this happened to me in 2004 in the Klamath River Basin of Northern California. I was working a solo contract for the Karuk Forestry Department, mostly post-fire recovery, habitat mapping, and erosion control. Nothing glamorous, but I liked it that way. Grew up nearby on the Hoopa side. The forest was in my blood. What I didn't like was the assignment location. A stretch of land called Whitechpeck Ridge, known for its steep slopes and damn near zero access. Locals avoided it. No trails, no cell reception. Just old-growth redwoods leaning into the clouds like gods with broken necks. The job was simple on paper. Survey damage from a lightning fire the month before. Document soil loss, flag endangered trees, mark the terrain for replanting crews. I was supposed to be out there for 3 nights. I only made it through 1. I hiked in with a 60-pound pack, my GPS tracker, radio, and sidearm. Nobody came with me, just me and my gear. I set up camp before sunset on a flat patch near a drainage cut. Dense trees all around. The air smelled like ash and river stone. Silence in the woods out there isn't quiet, it's weight. You feel it pressing behind your ears. First night, around 2 a.m., I woke up to what sounded like a heavy branch snapping. Not falling, snapping, deliberate. Close. I unzipped the tent slowly and listened. Nothing for about 10 seconds. Then I heard a low huff, almost canine, followed by something walking, 4 steps, then a pause. Crunch, crunch, then silence again. Now, black bears make that kind of noise, sure, but this didn't shuffle or sniff. It moved like it was thinking. I stayed in the tent, hand on my pistol, until dawn. Next morning I found prints, big ones, almost human but too wide, too splayed, 5 toes, no claws. Heel depth suggested over 300 pounds. I followed them about 50 yards until they disappeared uphill in a game trail that didn't go anywhere. By noon, the feeling of being watched was constant. I worked fast, collected my soil samples, marked 2 hazard trees, and decided to move camp closer to the river bend. I figured the flowing water would mask my scent or noise. I didn't want whatever made those prints circling my tent again. By nightfall, I was tucked near the edge of a ravine, tent set up beneath a fallen cedar. Fire going, still no signal. Around 10 p.m., I heard a scream. Not human, not a cougar either. It had depth, like it came from a throat built to resonate over miles. It started high, dipped low, then cut off. I didn't sleep after that. Around midnight, I saw a flashlight in the trees across the ravine. Just one beam, jittering between trunks. No voice, no calls, just the beam, scanning like it was looking for something. I thought maybe it was search and rescue or a poacher. But the light moved wrong, too steady, too fast between trees 30 feet apart. Then the light blinked out. At 3:12 a.m., my tent was unzipped. I swear on my blood, I heard the zipper come down, slow. I bolted upright and pulled my pistol, but by the time I looked, nothing was there. No wind, no animals, no sound. The zipper was down, though. And inside, right at the foot of my sleeping bag, a smear of something dark. Smelled like copper and wet dog. I broke camp by daylight and started hiking out, following the same GPS path I came in on. About an hour in, I found a shredded backpack, not mine. Covered in moss and half torn, like it had been sitting out for weeks. I recognized the patch on it. It belonged to Peter Begay, a seasonal worker who'd gone missing that June. They never found him, said he'd gone swimming drunk and disappeared downstream. I radioed in, but got nothing but static. I kept moving. At 2 p.m., I reached a draw where the land dipped steep. That's where I saw it. It stood across the gap, maybe 50 yards off. At first, I thought it was a bear standing upright, but it wasn't hunched. It was straight-backed, arms longer than ours, swinging low. No fur, just black, cracked skin like tree bark in drought. Its head was narrow, almost snouted, but with flat teeth visible even from that distance. Eyes too far apart, and it didn't blink, just stared. Then it moved. One long step, then another. Smooth. No bobbing like we walk. It dropped to all fours without a sound and disappeared into the brush. I never heard it leave. I didn't run. I knew better. Running triggered predators. I walked steady, heart hammering, checking my 6 every 10 steps. I made it to the ranger trail by dusk, where a dirt road met the tree line. Later, I learned something worse. Peter wasn't the only one. Over the last 10 years, 6 other men, mostly seasonal loggers and fish counters, had vanished near Whitepeck Ridge. No bodies, just equipment found weeks or months later, sometimes miles from where they were supposed to be. Local PD didn't investigate hard. Said it was drugs, exposure, river drownings. But one deputy, retired now, told me off the record that the county had a drawer full of unsolved missing persons going back 40 years. All near that same ridgeline. All men. All solo workers. Fish and Wildlife ran some tests on hair samples I turned in. Said it was a genetic anomaly. Closest match? Primate. But not local, not human, not bear, not known. Lab report was sealed after that. They didn't send me back. They never sent anyone back. That whole quadrant is off limits now. Officially for post-fire habitat recovery. No public access, no foot traffic, nothing. I think it hunts humans who work alone. Targets them, observes for days first. That explains the flashlight trick. Mimicry, learned behavior. It doesn't kill fast. It studies, it waits, then it moves in, always at night. They think it may have migrated west decades ago following the salmon runs. Big predators follow food. But it stayed when the ecosystem changed. Adapted, got bolder. Now it lives in those woods like a shadow that doesn't belong. If you go too deep alone, if you stay too long, it remembers. It follows. And eventually it comes close enough to unzip your tent. My name's Nolan Red Elk, and this happened to me in 2008, out in the Klamath Mountains of Northern California, not far from the Oregon border. I was working for a private timber survey firm, tagging and mapping old-growth sections on disputed land owned by a logging company. The contract paid well, and I needed the money after my dad got sick. I didn't ask questions, just took the job and drove west from Fort Hall. The area we were in, near the Marble Mountain Wilderness, wasn't logged much in the last 50 years. Big stands of Douglas fir, madrone, cedar, real cathedral forest. They told us to flag GPS points near watershed boundaries and note anything that looked like an erosion risk. Officially, we weren't even supposed to be more than 10 miles from the road. But I don't trust other people's maps. I'd worked wildland fire before. I knew how to read a tree line and a ridge. My partner, Jeremy Spence, was fresh out of college from San Diego. Smart guy, good with tech, not much time in the bush. He didn't like being out more than a day, but he followed me. On the third day, we pushed deeper, beyond the last known fire break. That's when things started to go wrong. It started subtle. Bird songs stopped around noon, like someone flipped a switch. No insects either. Just the wind through branches, a faint resin smell on the air. Then Jeremy said he felt watched. I laughed, said maybe a cougar was circling, but I was watching our six. I'm not quick to spook. But then I saw it. About 40 yards off trail, low between two firs, something moved. Not upright, too smooth. It didn't make noise, just shifted, like it was made of rope and muscle. Jeremy froze, saw it too. I raised the field glasses. The shape was wrong, long, lanky, too many joints. At first I thought it was two animals together, but it turned its head. It had a flat face, recessed eyes, skin like dried kelp, mottled gray-green with hints of copper under light. It didn't blink, just held still, like it thought it was invisible. When it moved again, it did so fast, fast like an eel in dark water, gone between trees in half a second. We decided to backtrack, mark the location, and radio it in. That was the second mistake. The first was coming this far. Our handhelds went to static, compass spun out, GPS glitched, threw us a location 40 miles east. I pulled out my paper map and set a bearing based on the ridge line. Jeremy wanted to stop and eat, but I told him we walk now, eat later. An hour in, we smelled something dead. Not just a carcass, old blood and rot mixed with bile. The sort of stench that turns your guts inside out. Then we found the campsite. It wasn't ours, and it wasn't abandoned. Two tents, both torn open. One flattened completely. A hatchet buried in a tree 3 feet off the ground. Gear scattered, shredded. No people, No drag marks, no blood, just gear torn like paper. Jeremy wanted to run. I told him no, running makes you pray. We stayed low, made a slow circle outward. That's when we found the claw marks on the cedar. 4 slashes, each 6 inches long, dug deep. The sap was still wet. Then we heard it. It wasn't a growl, not quite. More like a throat click, followed by a low moan, like something testing its voice. Jeremy spun, dropped his pack. I saw it again, briefly, crouched behind a boulder, half its body pressed into shadow. It was watching us, testing our reaction. I raised my rifle, not to fire, just to show it we weren't helpless. That's when it moved. Quick. Low to the ground, arms digging into soil like a spider. Jeremy screamed. The thing surged from the side, knocked him flat with a swipe. I fired once, missed. It shrieked, high, metallic, and vanished uphill. Jeremy's back was torn open. 3 gashes, clean but deep, not lethal. I packed them with gauze, tied my jacket around him, and hauled him up. He could walk, barely. We needed high ground. We climbed until dusk, found a narrow ledge above a dry creek bed. No tent, just sleeping bags, and I kept the rifle across my chest. It came back after midnight. No noise, just the sudden sound of stone scraping 30 feet below. I saw it on the far bank, outlined in moonlight, half cloaked in brush. It was trying to mimic the foliage, head low, limbs spread like a lizard, but its back rose unnaturally, arched in a way no animal should. I watched it breathe, shallow, deliberate. It didn't attack, just stared. I didn't sleep. At dawn, it was gone. We limped back east. Took us 2 full days. No more sightings, but the forest felt empty the whole way out. The ranger said the area was closed the week before. Rock slide, they claimed. I asked about the camp. They went quiet. Said there was no record of a missing party out there, but one of them, older guy, pulled me aside and asked if I saw the Ridget runner. I said no. He just nodded. Said the locals had stories, long ones, about something old in the hills, something that hunts alone, doesn't kill to eat, kills to drive people away. That night, Jeremy crashed in a motel in Reading. By morning, he was gone, left everything. Never saw him again. I did research. That thing, it's not unknown. Not entirely. There are a few whispers if you look in the right places. Miners went missing back in the 1890s. Whole camps wiped out, no blood, no signs. In the 70s, a fire crew vanished near the same ridgeline. Official report blamed sudden weather. No bodies found. And in 1992, a hunter's torso was found wedged in a tree 50 feet off the ground, arms removed. Authorities blamed a bear, but bears don't stack bones in circles, and they don't avoid trail cams. That creature is territorial. It watches long before it moves. It knows its land. And it doesn't leave survivors unless it wants them scared. I believe it let me go, as a warning. I marked the map and burned the copy. I don't go near the Klamaths anymore. And if you ever see a tree clawed 6 feet high with no tracks around it, turn back. It already saw you. My name is Daryl Chaska, and this happened to me in 2008, in the deep woods east of Kalmiopsis Wilderness, southern Oregon. I've been working fire lines and doing ecological surveys for the tribal forestry program for over a decade. Our people have always known these woods, but this wasn't something passed down. This was something we didn't talk about, maybe because no one lived to. I was checking on a trail camera grid we'd set for a wildlife corridor study. Just me and my co-worker, Kenny Long Elk. He was younger, sharper with tech, and had a smart mouth that made the long hikes feel shorter. We were a half day from any road, maybe more if the trail got washed out. That morning, the light came strange through the cedar and spruce. casting hard-edged shadows even at dawn. I remember it because I kept feeling watched, and the air had that taste, like iron or sap. Not rot, not yet. We had a route. 12 cameras, spaced across 5 miles of uneven, steep forest. Elk sign was heavy, but then the print stopped. It was like the whole forest had shut up. No bird song, no squirrel chatter, not even bugs buzzing around the wet leaves. I've never known silence like that in the woods. Kenny noticed it too. He went quiet, alert, stopped cracking jokes. Around noon, we found the third camera, ripped clean off the tree. The mount bolts were still embedded in the bark, housing smashed, lens gone, not clawed or chewed, crushed like someone took a sledge to it. Kenny frowned, snapped a picture. We figured it was vandals, meth cookers or angry hikers. But I checked the nearby game trail and found a print in the soft earth. 4 toes, elongated pad, but not quite canine. Bigger than wolf, longer than bear. No claw marks. It looked wrong, like it was made by something that wasn't supposed to walk upright, but did. We should have turned back right there, but we didn't. That was the mistake. We pressed on, tense, quiet. Kenny kept looking over his shoulder. I told him to focus. We just needed to hit the ridgeline, swap cards, and head back. We reached the 6th camera around 3 p.m., and I noticed the moss had been disturbed, peeled in big patches off the trunks like someone yanked it off by hand. The air stank, wet dog, meat, and ozone, like before a lightning strike. Kenny threw up behind a log. He wanted to turn back. I said, give it one more sight. 7th camera was 800 yards uphill. A tough scramble. Took us an hour. But when we got there, it was gone too. Not just smashed, gone. Mount, cable, all of it. Even the metal bracket bolts were pulled from the tree. I bent down to examine a drag mark in the dirt when Kenny called out behind me. Daryl, movement, down the slope. I turned, didn't see it, but I felt it. Heavy, fast movement in the understory. Big, 2-legged. It moved like a man, but didn't sound like one. I raised the handheld radio, dead. Kenny tried his GPS, it glitched, compass spinning. Then it screamed. Not Kenny, the thing. I've heard cougars scream. I've heard people scream. This was neither. It was low and long, like a bull elk bugling through a blown speaker, but layered with a wet rasp that vibrated in my gut. We ran. We tore down that slope reckless, branches clawing, boots slipping. Kenny fell. I yanked him up. The thing was behind us. I could hear it crashing through the brush, fast and heavy, not winded. It wasn't chasing us to scare us off. It was hunting. We didn't stop until we reached a fire line clearing, about 20 feet wide, scraped down to dirt. I turned to see if it followed us out of the trees. It did. It stood just inside the tree line. 7 feet tall, maybe more, built like a starving bear that tried to be a man. Matted dark fur in patches, tight skin stretched between joints like a bat's elbow. Arms too long, knees bent backward like a heron. The face was the worst. Flat snout, slit nostrils, forward eyes like a predator's. It didn't blink, just stared. Then it stepped back into the shadows. Kenny pulled me by the sleeve. Go, now! We didn't stop until we reached the drop-off to the trailhead gulch, then slid the last 200 feet to the access road. Got back to the truck, shaking, cut up, silent. We filed a report with the tribal council. They didn't laugh. An elder took us aside, told us quiet-like there were old stories from that region. Things that lived in the land before people. The creature, he said, might have been an apex predator in that isolated basin. It hunted by silence, suppressing the ambient life around it, masking its movement. It didn't need to eat often. When it did, it chose carefully. Observed patterns. 2 weeks later, I got a call. One of the other field teams hadn't checked in. 2 men, both experienced. Their last known GPS ping was inside the southern boundary of that same study. Zone. Search and rescue went out. They found 1 pack shredded on a game trail, nothing else. Not a drop of blood, not a track. Forest Service sealed the area under the pretext of wildfire rehab. Kenny quit, moved to Arizona. Last I heard, he works tech support in Flagstaff. I stayed, but I never went back to that basin. Even now, in clear daylight, the memory sits behind my eyes like a film I can't rewind. That thing, it wasn't lost. It wasn't confused. It had purpose. Later, we analyzed the 2 surviving trail cams. One of them caught a frame. Blurry, partial. Just the back of the creature's head, shoulders hunched, lifting something over its shoulder. Could have been a deer. Could have been a man. No one wanted to say it. From what we pieced together, it wasn't random. The missing team, they'd camped near its hunting ground, maybe even near its den. The thing had tolerated intrusion until it didn't. Then it acted. Efficiently. I think it remembered us. Chose not to take us that day. Why? I don't know. Maybe we ran too soon. Maybe it already ate. The elders call it Yasik, the collector. Not a spirit, a thing. An animal from before language, before rules. Sometimes I still hear it in dreams. Not the scream, the silence. That crushing, impossible silence where nothing moves but you and what's watching you. Now when the forest goes quiet, I leave. Every time. My name is Delson Yazzie, and this happened to me in 2004, deep in the Salmon Challis National Forest in central Idaho. I was working alone that summer. My cousin, who usually came out with me for the summer trapping season, had broken his collarbone during a bad spill on his dirt bike in May. So it was just me and 300,000 acres of high alpine woods, knife-thin canyons, and more black bear than residents. I was there doing a combination of wildlife tracking, unofficial forest patrol, and, when I had time, laying out lines for marten and fox pelts. I'd done this kind of work every summer since I was 17. I trusted the woods like I'd trust my own hands, until that August. It started with the mule deer. I'd found 2 does within the same week, both mutilated in ways that didn't track. Whatever had taken them hadn't eaten much, just torn out the haunches and left the rest to rot. No clean kill marks, no signs of coyotes or wolves. The strange part was how their skulls had been crushed, like something had bitten straight through. That's not bear behavior. I took photos, sent them into the state game biologist I knew back in Salmon. He figured it was probably a sick cougar or even some psycho with a machete, but I knew cougar kills. I knew what human-made wounds looked like. These weren't that. The 3rd carcass wasn't a deer, it was a hiker. Man in his 50s wearing a neon green windbreaker. That's what caught my eye from the ridgeline. I almost didn't believe it. Nobody came this deep into the Bighorn Crags without a guide or a plan. I climbed down into the ravine. His face was mostly gone, peeled back like it had been flensed with claws or teeth. His left leg was twisted clean backward at the hip. No signs of a fall, no signs of a struggle either. Just obliterated and left face down in the pine needles. I radioed it into the Forest Service out of Stanley. They sent a chopper and 2 deputies. I told them what I'd seen and what I suspected. They didn't say much, just nodded and took the body. Later, I heard through a friend in Salmon that the official cause was listed as a mauling by unknown predator, but they kept the details vague. Too vague. That's when I started thinking about leaving early, but I didn't. I should have. That night I slept with my Remington loaded and leaned against the tent pole. The wind was bad, whipping hard through the lodgepole pines, loud enough to cover footsteps. Around midnight, I woke up sweating. Not from fear, but instinct. You learn to listen to that part of your gut when you grow up hunting and living in the bush. I slipped out of the tent. The fire was just red coals. I swept the tree line with a flashlight, slow, methodical. Nothing moved. I stood there for 5, maybe 6 minutes. Then I saw it. 2 reflective pinpricks just past the edge of the tree line. Not eye shine, something more like oily glass. It ducked back behind a trunk, no noise, no animal smell. Just silence and the feeling that something was watching from close by, waiting. I stayed up the rest of the night. Next day, I broke camp and started hiking out toward the Ranger trailhead near Yellow Jacket Creek. Took me the whole day. I didn't stop to eat, I didn't stop to rest, and I still felt followed. That night I stayed in an old fire tower 5 miles out from the road. Hadn't been used in years, but the stairs were intact and the view gave me a chance to sleep without my back exposed. Around 2 a.m., I woke to scratching, faint, rhythmic, something brushing the metal supports below the floor. I held my breath. The noise moved, slow, deliberate. I peeked out the window with my flashlight off. Moonlight gave me just enough. Something was crawling up the side of the tower. I waited, heart hammering. I raised the Remington. It stopped moving about halfway up. Then it dropped. No sound. Just vanished into the dark. I stayed up till daylight, then ran the rest of the way to the truck. Never went back that season. Weeks later, I got a call from the biologist in Salmon. He told me another body had turned up. Teenage girl this time, on the opposite side of the forest near Panther Creek. Similar mutilations, skull crushed, leg twisted, flesh stripped but barely eaten. They blamed wolves. Shut down access to part of the trail system. Told the public it was a freak accident. But I know they didn't believe it. I sure as hell didn't. I did some digging the winter after. Found references in old Shoshone stories about a predator called Sagwidi, roughly the Silent Claw. Said it moved like fog, climbed trees, used mimicry, didn't eat its prey, just killed to drive people away. Territorial, intelligent. The elders said it wasn't supernatural, said it was a creature from long before people came to. These mountains, a relic, rare. But when the balance of the forest got thrown out of order, wildfires, logging, mining, it returned. I asked one old man from Tendoy what he thought it looked like. He didn't hesitate. Like something that should have died out when the mammoths did, he said. Long legs, pale fur, no eyes you can see, but it sees you just fine. I asked him what it wanted. Same thing you'd want, he said, to be left the hell alone. So I stopped asking questions, and I never went back. My name is Tyler Blackcrow, and this happened to me in 2006, in the Medicine Bow National Forest in southern Wyoming. I'd been working with the Forest Service for 11 years by then, mostly wildfire surveys and ecological restoration projects. But that fall, I'd taken an independent contract to track migratory elk herds and monitor predator activity near the Route Divide. Solitary work, quiet, methodical, the kind of job I liked. The money was decent, but I had another reason for taking it. My Uncle Joseph had vanished in that forest in 1991. One moment he was there, cutting trail with 2 other men. Next moment, gone. Search teams never found a single thing. No blood, no sign of struggle, no gear, not even a broken branch, just absence. I'd grown up half believing it was a bear, maybe a mountain lion. The other half of me stayed up at night trying to picture something worse. Something that didn't leave behind messes. I didn't tell anyone that I'd be camping near Middle Crow Creek, where he'd disappeared. I set up camp late September, when the aspens turned gold, and the nights dropped below freezing. I had a canvas wall tent, a wood stove, 2 weeks of supplies, and a scoped .3006. Most nights I recorded data and kept a journal. That night, the first night, I just sat outside the tent, watching steam rise off my coffee. Around 1 a.m., I heard a sound that didn't belong. It was subtle, not twigs snapping or branches cracking. Those were common. This was a sound with intent. A low, rhythmic dragging noise, maybe 40 yards out. Not random, deliberate. I stood still and listened. My nearest neighbor was 6 miles away, and I knew the ranger schedules. No one else was supposed to be out here. Then it stopped. I chalked it up to a black bear scavenging downwind and turned in. But I left the rifle loaded beside the cot. Second night, I found tracks, if you can call them that. 4-toed impressions in the soft dirt near the creek, but the spacing was all wrong. The stride measured nearly 5 feet between steps, and the heel didn't dig in like a mammal should. No claw marks, just pads. Broad, heavy pads. I took photos and bagged some fibers that caught on a splintered log, translucent. Almost like fish skin, but thicker. I sent the samples to a contact at the university in Laramie. Told her I thought it might be malformed cougar hide. A lie to get her looking without panic. By the 5th day, something had changed in the woods. The birds, magpies, nutcrackers, finches vanished. I stopped hearing squirrels. Even the elk herds began steering clear of the ravine below my camp. A wide berth. They knew something I didn't. That night, I followed the silence. Took the rifle, the thermal scope, and a wind meter. I moved slow, every step deliberate. The trees thinned near the ridge. Moonlight cut shadows into spears across the slope. Then I saw it. At first, I thought it was a man on all fours, crawling along the edge of the ridge. But the proportions were off. The limbs were too long, the elbows too high, and the head, it was angled wrong. There was no neck, just a slope from the top of the spine to a flat, broad cranium like a hammerhead shark turned sideways. Skin like wet leather stretched over a skeletal frame. It moved with this jerking insect rhythm, fast but disjointed. It stopped and raised its head like it smelled something. Me. I backed up slow, rifle leveled. It didn't charge. Not yet. Just watched. And then, it did the thing I can't explain. It opened its mouth, not to scream, not to roar, but to echo. That's the best word I have. It mimicked the exact sound I'd made stepping on a branch 10 seconds earlier. Perfectly. Like it had recorded it. Then it repeated it 2 more times, like it was testing whether I'd move again. I didn't. Then it crawled back into the trees. I made it to camp before dawn. My hand shook too bad to light the stove. Next day I found blood. Not mine, not fresh either. Long streaks across rock, hair stuck to bark in clumps. Some deer, some not. A shredded daypack half buried in moss. Faded to sun-bleached blue. I recognized the brand, REI, early 90s. I didn't touch it. That night I started hearing the mimicry again. Sometimes it was my own voice repeating words I'd said the day before, quietly, distorted. Sometimes it was bird calls, but slightly off. A raven's croak slowed down like a cassette tape dying. Sometimes I heard Uncle Joseph calling my name. Day 9, it came closer. I caught it watching me from the edge of the tree line, 30 feet out. Not moving. Just crouched, those hammer-flat eyes soaking me in. I aimed, fired, hit it in the left shoulder. It screamed this broken, awful bleat, part elk, part crying infant, and sprinted into the brush. I tracked it through blood and broken branches for a mile before the trail vanished. The blood just stopped, like it had never bled at all. 2 nights later, a survey team went missing. 3 men, all experienced woodsmen. Their last GPS ping placed them on the northern slope of the creek basin, less than 2 miles from my camp. Search and rescue found one of them 5 days later, buried under a stack of pine boughs, eyes missing, jaw snapped like a dry wishbone. No sign of the other 2. The Forest Service shut down the entire quadrant. official summary was increased predator activity, likely mountain lions. They flew in a team from out of state. Unmarked gear, military-grade equipment. I packed up and left without telling anyone what I saw. Until now. The creature, best guess, it's evolved for stealth predation. Cold-blooded maybe, given the translucent dermis. Oral mimicry for luring prey. Ambush tactics. It doesn't feed like a bear or a wolf. It studies, picks off the isolated, mimics the familiar, and moves on. Later that year, my contact at the university called back. She couldn't match the fiber. Said it wasn't plant, wasn't insect, and didn't respond to standard proteomic tests. No DNA hits. She asked if I'd gotten it from a fish market. I told her yes, it's still out there. And if it's as intelligent as I suspect, it remembers faces. I don't go back to Medicine Bow, not anymore. But sometimes I hear my uncle's voice in dreams, calling me from the edge of the trees. Only it's not him. My name is Cody Blackdeer, and this happened to me in 2004, in the deep pine forest near Sandpoint, Idaho. I was working contract forestry back then, mostly solo trail inspections and fire line surveys. The money wasn't much, but the quiet suited me. I'm Kootenai, born into the woods. I can read wind off a tree's lean, hear squirrel chatter change when something big moves through. My job kept me out in the timber, and I was good at it. I never spooked easy. That changed over 3 days in August. The assignment was simple. Check erosion around a set of logging access trails east of Priest Lake. The timber out there grows thick and vertical, high spruce and old-growth cedar. Trails like animal veins through endless green. I had topo maps, water, a lever-action marlin I usually carried for cougars. I was alone per usual. First day was nothing strange. Fresh elk scat, cutthroat in a shaded stream. No cell service past the second ridge. I camped in a small hollow near an old firewatch clearing. Heard a lone barred owl, nothing more. Second day, I started seeing weird sign. First was the elk carcass, fresh kill torn at the belly. But the tear wasn't clean, like cougar or bear. It was wide, messy, almost punched open, like something with blunt claws had dug in. I knelt to look at the wound. No drag marks, no tracks. Just flattened grass all around like something heavy had crouched over it, feeding low and silent. The smell was wrong too, not just death, but rot. Older than that kill. Like it had rolled in something before it fed. My gut tensed. I didn't finish lunch that day. I moved northeast, deeper off the designated trail, figuring maybe someone was poaching or letting dogs loose. I found more. Broken branches 6 feet high, claw marks gouged into fir trunks. Wide 3-talon scrapes, uneven spacing. Whatever made them didn't have paws like any cat or bear I'd seen. One mark slashed at an angle down the bark like a raptor's talon. That night I kept the fire low. Didn't cook. Didn't sleep much. Third day, I crossed onto an unmarked path. A washed-out ATV trail not listed on any map I carried. I followed it because the ground looked churned, like something heavy had passed more than once, days apart. The pine needles were disturbed in looping arcs like it didn't walk straight. Midday, I found a boot. Old, waterlogged, half buried in moss. Inside was a broken foot bone, still laced in sock fabric. No sign of the rest of the body. My hand started shaking then. I tried radioing out, but my unit just hissed static. I marked the spot with orange tape and pushed west. Wanted to be back at my truck before dark. I never made it. Just before dusk, I started hearing this clicking, not like sticks, like bone. Sharp, rhythmic, fast. 6, maybe 7 clicks at a time. I'd stop. It would stop. Every time I moved, it started again, always behind, never ahead. I made it to a rock bluff and climbed up, hoping for signal. Up top, I had maybe 30 feet of visibility. Trees too tight. The sound had stopped. That's when I saw it. It moved through the trees like a shadow given weight. 7, maybe 8 feet tall, but hunched. Limbs too long. Its skin looked wet, like tree bark soaked in oil. No fur, no real face either. Just a split in its head. Vertical, like a lipless mouth running from forehead to chest, filled with rows of dull, bone-colored teeth that clicked when it breathed. It didn't run. It didn't scream. It crawled, arms swinging low, pulling its torso forward like a frog underwater. I froze. It passed 30 feet below me, sniffing the air with a flickering, tongue-like muscle from its mouth. Its back had wounds, deep scabbed over tears like it had been shot or caught in barbed wire long ago. Old injuries, healed wrong. Then it stopped. Head turned uphill. It clicked once, paused, then again, louder. It knew I was there. I backed up, rifle shaking in my grip. I didn't fire, I ran. I don't remember much of the descent. Slid half a mile down scree, cut up my leg on shale, dropped my pack. I didn't stop until I reached the old Forest Service shed where I'd parked 3 days earlier. The windows were smashed, doors splintered, like something had tried to get in. I slept in the back seat of my truck with the rifle across my chest and the engine running till sunrise. I reported the human remains to the sheriff's office in Bonner County. They said the boot matched a man who went missing in '99. Name was Dale Kestrel. Hunting accident, they said. Unsolved. I asked about the body. They said it had never been found, just the camp rifle and boot. No one believed me about the creature. I didn't push. But 2 months later, I got a call from a fish and game contact I trusted, Jason Kellard. He said a grad student went missing, tagging. Gray wolves 20 miles east of where I'd been. GPS collar showed she'd wandered off trail around dusk. Found her truck, but not her. They closed the report citing wildlife predation. But Jason said no wolves in the region left wounds like what they found on her vest. Slashes, deep ones. Same 3-pattern claw. I think that thing's hunting territory stretches north toward Canada. Remote, rugged, old growth that hasn't seen people in years. Whatever it is, it's not random. It stalks, it ambushes, and it learns. Jason dug up an old regional report from the 70s. Logging crew abandoned a track due to nocturnal predator threat. They described something large, dark, silent. Same terrain, same behavior. I think this thing's been here longer than we've had maps for it. Its wounds, those scars on its back, I think they're from earlier confrontations. Someone tried to kill it once, maybe more than once. Failed. And now it remembers. You can believe me or not, I'm done chasing explanations. I just know the forest keeps things older and smarter than we want to admit. And sometimes they watch from the trees, just out of sight, waiting for us to forget they're there. My name's Tyler Redfeather, and this happened to me in 2008, in the Bitterroot Mountains of western Montana, near the Idaho border. I was 37, 4th generation Salish. My father worked the woods before me, cutting trail, clearing windfall, watching for fire. I stayed on because it made sense. The land raised us, and in a way, we watched over it. That spring, a hiker vanished off the Painted Rocks Trail, young guy from Spokane. Nothing new. Happens more than folks admit. Weather, cliffs, cougars. But when his sister went missing searching for him, that's when they brought me in. I wasn't law enforcement, just tribal forestry. But I knew that backcountry better than most. I'd cut the switchbacks up Blodgett Canyon. I knew where trees leaned unnatural, where elk stopped grazing, where silence wasn't right. They sent me with a biologist named Dana Klein. She was in her 40s, sharp eyes, quiet type. Came from Missoula, specialized in apex predators. She wasn't buying cougar. Said the body would have turned up. Scavenged or not, bones don't vanish that clean. What caught her attention was the absence of signs. No drag marks, no prints. Not even a broken twig where the girl had gone off trail. We set out early. No guns, policy, but I packed my grandfather's knife and a flare gun. Dana brought a camera trap rig and some scent markers. We planned to stay 3 nights. Base camp near Little Stony Lake. It was mid-May. Snow still crusted the northern slopes. First night uneventful. Heard a few coyotes, maybe a moose in the reeds. Second night I saw something I still don't understand. We were 3 miles north of base, following a gulch that Dana said might be a travel corridor, natural game trail. Pine gave way to larch, then to dense fir. Light vanished early under that canopy. Around dusk, we found a dead elk calf. Fresh kill, maybe 2 hours old. No visible wounds, neck wasn't broken, no blood. Dana crouched by it, checking its eyes, its mouth. Something's off, she said. Predators crushed the windpipe or gut the flanks. This looks like it was suffocated. She meant it literally, like something had cut off the air. No visible trauma, no punctures. We staked a camera, left scent, circled back to camp. That night, I heard it. Not close, not loud, just wrong. You ever hear something and know it doesn't belong, like your bones flinch before your brain catches up? It was a rasp, rhythmic, pulsing, almost wet. Dana heard it too. She sat up, listening. Neither of us spoke. At first light, we returned to the calf. Gone. No drag marks, no blood, no prints. Just flattened grass where it had been. Dana checked the camera. Dead. Battery drained. New batteries, full charge when installed. We kept going. I didn't like it. But something had taken that animal, and if the siblings were out there, dead or alive, we needed answers. About a mile past the kill site, we reached a shale ridge. Beyond it, a sunken glade. I stopped short. The trees changed, bent inward. Bark stripped, not clawed. Peeled, like you'd strip a willow branch for cordage. There were bones, not scattered, piled. Some clean. Others wrapped in what looked like cured hide, gray and leathery. Donna knelt beside the pile and touched one of the femurs. "This is human," she said it flat. No panic, no drama. I stepped back, looked at the tree line. No birds, no bugs, just stillness. Like the forest had been holding its breath for years. We marked the GPS and started back, moving fast. Dana kept glancing over her shoulder. I kept my knife in hand. Around halfway back, we heard it again. That rasping breath. Closer now. Too close. I motioned her to drop low. We crouched behind a stump. The air smelled wrong. Wet rot and iron. Then I saw it. It moved between the trees like smoke. Gray, long-limbed, no fur. Its back legs were wrong. Angled like a hare's, but elongated, muscular. Arms nearly touched the ground. The head, Jesus. The head looked like it had no skull. Just a soft, hanging cowl of flesh that shifted with every breath. And it had no eyes. It moved by sound. We realized that quick. Every step we took, it stopped. Tilted that thing where a head should have been, listening. We froze. It passed not 10 feet from us. We stayed down another hour, not speaking. That night we didn't sleep. At dawn we packed out, didn't even take the tent. When we reached the trailhead, I called it in. Sheriff came, search and rescue. They found nothing. No bones, no glade, not even the ridge. Dana and I filed reports. Hers got flagged. Animal misidentification. Mine vanished altogether. Weeks passed. Then a friend in tribal wildlife called me quiet one night. Told me there were old stories, pre-contact, something the Salish feared. They called it TeulaTwolah, which means hollow, one. It moved silently, took game without sound, took people and left no trace. It mimicked elk calls, and once it marked a place, the land went quiet. Dead. They said it was a mountain spirit corrupted by famine. Flesh and hunger fused. It didn't kill for food, it killed to erase presence, to clear a place of the living, a territorial purge. I asked him why I'd never heard the stories growing up. He paused, said, "Some stories we bury, because saying them too often makes them come back." I tried to move on, took a desk job for 2 years, but I couldn't forget that glade. A year later, a father and son vanished off the Fire Creek Trail, less than 6 miles from where we camped. Bodies never found. No prints, same pattern. Dana quit field work, teaches now. She won't talk about it. As for me, I keep the knife close. I don't camp past sunset. And sometimes, when the wind's right, I still hear that breath in the trees, long, wet, waiting. My name is Keaton Tallbear, and this happened to me in 2004, in the Uncompah Gray National Forest, western Colorado. I was working trail maintenance for the Forest Service, mostly solo assignments, clearing debris, checking fire breaks, log-in blowdowns. I liked it better that way. Less talking, more listening. That spring, they'd had a freak late-season storm that snapped old trees like matchsticks along the rim trail. They sent me up there with a pack mule and 6 days of supplies. My job was simple. Clear the upper switchbacks, inspect the trail shelters, and report anything odd. The first 3 days were quiet. Cold in the mornings, warm by noon. Elk sign all over. I'd walk 12 miles a day with my axe and saw, break trail, pitch my tent, sleep light. You learn to catalog every forest noise. Wind, pine creek, squirrel chatter. You also learn when something doesn't fit. On the 4th night, I camped by a glacial tarn. Clear water, maybe 30 yards across, tucked beneath a granite ridge. The trees got thin up that high. Around sunset, the mule started acting strange. Wouldn't graze. Ears twitching toward the ridge like it was tracking movement I couldn't see. I figured maybe a mountain lion. I kept my .357 close, just in case. At 2:13 a.m., I remember the time exactly. I woke up cold. Not just cool, but sudden, biting cold, like the temperature had dropped 20 degrees in seconds. I sat up and listened. The forest was dead quiet. Even the mule had stopped making noise. That's never a good sign. Then I heard it. Not close, but not far either. A heavy, deliberate exhale, like a big animal drawing in a breath through flared nostrils. I froze. It sounded wrong. Not bear. Not cat. Too deep. Too wet. I reached for the flashlight, flicked it on. The mule was gone. I stood up, heart hammering, and scanned the trees. Nothing. Just darkness and my own breath steaming out in the beam of light. Then I saw the tracks. Not hoof prints. Not paws. Something else. 5 toes. Splayed wide like a human's, but longer. Heavier. Deep imprints that went from the water's edge into the trees, 20 feet from my tent. I should have left then, but the mule carried my radio. Without it, I had no contact, no way to call out. I packed my gear at first light and started downhill. I figured I'd hit the ranger cabin halfway down and radio for evac. 6 miles. I could do that by noon. 2 hours in, I found the first body. At first, I thought it was a downed elk, big reddish-brown mass lying in a thicket. But when I got close, I saw the tack, the saddlebags, shredded. The mule's throat was torn open like something had hooked into it and yanked. No drag marks, just blood sprayed on the leaves. Clean kill, predator precision. I started moving faster, gun out. Every 5 steps, I stopped and listened. That's when I noticed the birds weren't coming back. No chipmunks, no flies even. Nothing would go near the carcass. By mile 4, I was drenched in sweat. I felt watched. Not just paranoid either. I'd stop and hear the echo stop half a second later, like something behind me was stopping too. Half a mile from the ranger cabin, I found the second body. Human this time. Male, maybe early 30s, rotting fast. No ID, no pack, no shoes. His hands were broken, all the fingers snapped backward. Eyes gone, face peeled back like something had studied him. Not eaten, studied. That's when I started to understand. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't killing for food. It was testing us. I reached the cabin, locked the door behind me, radioed base, static. Tried again. Nothing. Battery flickered, then died. Same with the backup lantern. No storm, no clouds. Just sudden gear failure. I locked the door, boarded the windows. The cabin had a hunting rifle in the locker. .30, 06. Loaded it. Sat in the dark. Waited. I didn't have to wait long. It came just before dusk. I smelled it first. Rot, like stagnant meat. Then the noise. Bare feet crunching pine needles. Slow. Heavy. A dragging gait, like it wasn't built for walking upright, but was doing it anyway. I saw it through the window. 7 feet tall, maybe more. Covered in sparse, patchy hair like a sick bear. Skin beneath was pale, almost translucent. Its eyes didn't glow. They absorbed light, so black they looked like holes in its skull. Its mouth was too wide, no lips. Teeth like needles, not for chewing, but for puncturing. Its arms were too long. It moved like it had too many joints in the wrong places. And it looked directly at me. It didn't charge, it didn't roar. It just pressed its hand, 5 long fingers against the glass, and watched me. Then it walked around the cabin, circled it 3 times, tapped the walls with its claws. Slow, deliberate, studying. Around midnight it stopped. I heard nothing after that. No footsteps. No breathing. Just silence. I waited until dawn, then bolted out the back. Made it 5 miles down to the fire road. A ranger truck picked me up. I told them a bear got spooked, that I lost the mule and spent the night bunkered in. They found the dead guy a week later. Coroner blamed exposure and scavengers, no further questions. But here's the truth. 3 more disappearances happened in that same quadrant over the next year. All lone hikers, no bodies found. They finally closed off part of the rim trail, citing landslide risk. 2 years later, I talked to an old Ute biologist who'd done environmental surveys up there in the 80s. She told me about sightings, something that wasn't bear, wasn't man, that lived near high alpine tarns. Always left behind silence. Always avoided trail cams. Mutilated animals in ways no known predator would. She called it the split hunger. Said it didn't eat to survive. It ate to learn. She thought it was a relic, a remnant predator from the Pleistocene. Something that adapted not by hiding, but by studying the things that hunted it. Mimicking movement, watching patterns, figuring us out, the mule, bait, the man, test subject. Me? I think it let me go. I think it was done watching for now. My name is Nolan Talltree, and this happened to me in 2003 in the Black Kettle National Grassland out in western Oklahoma. I was 35, working wildlife management for the Cheyenne and Arapaho lands. Most of my days were spent solo, cataloging bird populations, checking motion cameras, tracking coyotes. It was good work, quiet work. I liked it that way. You don't take a job like mine unless you want to be left alone. That season, there were rumors swirling around the nearby ranches. A half-dozen cows gone missing, not just stolen, torn up. Something about the wounds didn't line up with coyote patterns. Ranchers blamed poachers, then cults, then weather. Nobody wanted to say predator because that made it real. But I'd seen one of the carcasses up close, torn flank, bite radius like a bear, but no drag marks. And the hindquarters were always missing. Always. It started with a sound. I'd been doing a 2-day sweep near Dead Indian Creek. Was coming back toward the service road at dusk, moving light, just my pack and rifle. That's when I heard it. This low chuffing growl, not feline, not canine. It vibrated in the chest more than the ears. Not loud, but dense, like something exhaling behind a wall. I froze, waited. Nothing. Then a branch snapped hard, maybe 20 yards to my right, deep in a cedar thicket. I raised my rifle and backed slowly. Still no sight, but I smelled something, like rust and rot. Not death, not quite. Something alive that shouldn't be. I made it back to the truck, locked up, and stayed the night at the bunkhouse near the ranger station. Told myself I was just on edge, too much solo time. But something about that sound, it wasn't natural. I'd been in the woods my whole life. That wasn't any bobcat, mountain lion, or feral hog. And I damn sure hadn't heard it before. The next day, I checked camera 6B. It was half a mile east of where I'd heard the noise. Battery was still good. One clip stood out. Timestamp 2:17 a.m. first, 2 does grazing. Normal. Then both jerked their heads up at the same time and bolted. 7 seconds later, something moved behind the brush line. I replayed it frame by frame. It was tall, too tall, on 2 legs, covered in what looked like patchy fur but not uniform. It was stringy, matted, like algae on driftwood. Arms hung too low, past the knees. The camera caught maybe 2 seconds of it moving between the trees. Then it turned its head, quick, mechanical, like an owl. The eyes had a low glow, not reflective like a dog's, but internal. Faint orange, almost like backlit coals. Then it vanished. I didn't show the clip to anyone. That night, I went back out. Against every instinct I had, I needed to know what I'd seen. I told the supervisor I was running nocturnal coyote observations, which wasn't unheard of. Took the thermal scope and a suppressed .308 I kept for feral hogs. Camped out near the old fire road. Didn't sleep. At 3:09 a.m., I picked up movement, fast. Large body heat signature darting across the screen 40 yards out. Bipedal. Heat dispersed oddly. Hot limbs, cold torso, like the blood was pushed to the extremities. I aimed, tracked it. Then it stopped. Dead still. I swear it looked right at the scope, even though I was behind brush. Then it sprinted straight at me. I fired. Once, twice. 3rd round hit, I think. It stumbled but didn't fall. Bolted left, crashed through underbrush, and was gone. The next morning I found blood. Not red, black, thick like oil. Metallic smell. Followed the trail maybe 60 feet before it vanished. No more prints, no drag, no sign of struggle. It was just gone. The next part's what messed with me. 2 days later, a local rancher named Del Clarkson called the station. Said his boy went missing during a trail ride. 17. Horse came back without him. Saddle torn. I joined the search crew. We swept the area for 2 days. Found nothing. Until the 3rd day. About half a mile off the trail, near the creek bed, we found a piece of boot leather. Then farther in, scraps of denim. Blood on the bark of a juniper tree, 8 feet up, as if something had jumped while carrying weight. I climbed that tree, found part of a flannel shirt tangled near the top, and higher still, bone fragments. No animal does that. Nothing carries prey up and then drops it. We called it an accident. Never found the rest of the body. Official story said he drowned in the creek and washed out, but I knew that was a lie. I quit 3 weeks later, turned in my badge, moved east. Been working private forestry jobs ever since. But I still think about what I saw, especially after dark. Now, Here's the part you won't find in any file. Back in the 60s, the Army Corps of Engineers did a wildlife survey of that region before the Washita River floodplain was restructured. The notes, buried in archived forestry logs, mentioned anomalous megafaunal patterns and unconfirmed predatory traces inconsistent with known native species. I only saw the documents once during a records inventory. They were coded under Project Waith. I dug deeper. Found a retired surveyor out of Wichita Falls who'd worked on that project. He wouldn't talk directly, but he slipped me a note. Said they'd found a subspecies, relic predator, no taxonomy match. Said it had traits of both mammal and reptile. Ambush hunter. Solitary. Would stalk prey for days, even weeks. Called it the old one in whispers. I think that's what I saw. A remnant, something older than our maps. Something that learned to stay hidden, and sometimes slips. The boy wasn't its first. Ranchers still whisper about things disappearing near that creek. Never more than one at a time, always spaced apart. Like it's careful, patient, smart. It hunts. Not for food, not just to feed. I think it does it because it remembers. Because once, long ago, we tried to wipe it out and it never forgot. My name is Elijah Two Rivers, and this happened to me in 2004, in the Blue Ridge Mountains of northern Georgia. I was part of the Chattahoochee backcountry fire crew. Our job wasn't just fire. It was trail clearing, wildlife reports, lost hikers, the whole deal. I'd grown up on that land. My grandfather taught me which mushrooms would kill you and which ones tasted like steak if you grilled them right. It's the kind of knowledge that only sticks if your life's been shaped by moss, stone, and silence. I wasn't looking for anything strange. I just wanted to put in my 20, retire, and live quiet. But the woods had other plans. We'd been getting weird calls from hikers. One kid said he saw a melted bear walking upright. Another group claimed something crawled on their tent in the middle of the night, something heavy and slow. Campers kept leaving early. Rangers started pulling permits for areas north of Hightower Bald. Folks assumed black bear with mange. I didn't. Bears don't follow you 5 miles without making a sound. One morning I hiked in with Laramie, a wildlife biologist from Alabama. Skinny guy, smart, had a voice like dry paper. He wanted to set up trail cams along an unmarked ridgeline where a couple had gone missing 2 weeks before. No remains, no gear, just their dog found shaking near a creek bed, muzzle torn open like it had chewed a live wire. The ridge was dense, rhododendron walls, deadfall, old pine. It was like stepping into something that didn't want you there. We made camp just below a rock outcrop and set 5 cameras in a semicircle, baited with sardines and liver. It was quiet that night, too quiet, no katydids, no frogs. I've heard that kind of silence twice in my life. Once during a prescribed burn that went sideways, and once that night. Around 3 a.m. I heard dragging, like wet rope over gravel, then breathing, labored, deep animal, but off somehow. Rhythmic but uneven, like it had one collapsed lung. I grabbed the .30 and nudged Laramie. He was already sitting up, white-faced. We waited. It circled the camp twice, never stepping into the firelight. I saw nothing. No eye shine, no silhouette, just the sound of pine needles being crushed under something heavy and deliberate. Then it stopped. Not retreated, just stopped. Dead quiet again. The kind that presses your ears like you're underwater. We didn't sleep. At first light, we checked the cams. One was gone. Just the bracket left, snapped at the base. Another was bent like someone had twisted it with pliers. But the third showed something. The clip ran 12 seconds. First, the bait hanging, undisturbed. Then a shape moved in, fast, blurry, no warning. It looked like it had too many joints. Its limbs bent wrong, like they were socketed backwards. Skin mottled like rotten fruit. No fur, just folds and ridges, almost reptilian. It didn't bite the bait. It studied it. Then it looked at the camera. Dead on. Its eyes were tiny, black, and sunk deep into a long, narrow face. No ears, just slits along the side of its skull. The worst part was its mouth. It opened vertically, straight down the chin like someone unzipping a duffel bag. Laramie vomited. I wanted to run, but I couldn't move. That day we packed up. No radio service until we hiked out 5 miles. Laramie filed the report with his department. I burned a copy of the footage. I didn't want it near my house. A week later, Laramie disappeared. His car was found parked near the same trailhead. Driver's door open. Shoes neatly placed beside the gravel. No blood, no signs of struggle. Just his field notebook in the front seat, open to a drawing of the thing from the tape. It had one word written under it in shaky pen. Burrower. That got to me. Not just because of what it looked like, but because it suggested behavior, purpose, a name. I started digging. Old ranger logs, Cherokee oral history, Appalachian folk stories. There were mentions, vague stuff, about a hollow skin that lived beneath rock faces, surfacing during dry years, drawn by sweat and blood. Never seen, just felt. They said it followed heat and noise. One tale described it pulling down a hunter who whistled too close to a collapsed mine. Said it didn't eat fast, it drank. 2 months later, a small search crew went missing while canvassing the same ridge. They found a trail.
Talking about some of your vulnerabilities, and their blink rate drops to 0. So like the moment, let's say you and I, we don't know each other, we're both single, we're on a date somewhere, and you start talking about how you're really insecure or paranoid about this thing, you start exposing this little flaw in yourself that normal people would go, oh yeah, I do that too sometimes. But the moment you see someone just laser focus on you, the moment you get into those vulnerabilities and insecurities, that's a big deal.
Why wouldn't that mean that you're so focused because you're so into it?
Right, you can be. So I might be really focused and into it, and then kind of show empathy on my face. You'll see this little muscle right here. That's called the grief muscle. So it makes this little horseshoe shape, and it's almost impossible to fake. So when you're talking about something that's vulnerable or sad, or maybe some of your insecurities or something like that, you're going to see like some social mirroring on that. You'll see someone's forehead go up, and they'll kind of mirror that with you. That they don't have to verbally say anything. But if I'm talking about insecurities, I see a drop in blink rate, and I don't see any facial resonance. Or if I'm talking about something really exciting, see my eyebrows go up, yours went up instantly because you have empathy. And an interesting thing is that about 85% of people, even if they're total strangers, and you do this, and you say good morning, oh, hey, good morning, they mirror it without even knowing that their forehead did that, because they have true empathy. So this is so difficult to fake. And then you're seeing a lack of that when you're talking about something that's vulnerable or sad or anything like that, and you're not seeing that kind of like that empathetic look on somebody's face, like, God, I'm so sorry that you're going through that. Those are very big indicators, and they're like, I would say close to 100% of the time, you're going to see a lack of affect. So that person is not empathetically affected by you saying something revealing or vulnerable about yourself, or like getting more open. And the other piece would be they become more focused. Like Lisa starts talking about her insecurities, vulnerabilities. That's my opportunity to learn how to control you.
Makes complete sense.
So that's very valuable information to me. So you're going to see blinks start to decrease. You're going to see a lack of recognition on the face. So I taught this group of women these like 10 things on how to spot narcissists on the first date. And one of the biggest ones, and we covered the top 5. And one of the top 5 was, if this person is talking about something vulnerable about themselves, psychopaths do not enjoy doing this. And they feel like it makes them feel or look weak or inept or vulnerable in some way, you're going to see their body start closing up while they're talking about being open, or they're pretending to be open verbally. They're physically closing off. You'll see their hands pull in. You'll see their arms draw back toward their body a little bit. You'll see them lean back a little bit, cover the abdomen. And mostly in men, you'll see this genital protection. So you'll see hand going from here, because you'll see in all these YouTube videos and all these body language articles, they show you these still images of someone crossing their arms. Every single time, that I would say for everyone watching this, every time you see a still image, don't ever let that sit in your head. Make it a movie, make it a little GIF, an animated thing, because you want to watch for change, right? So let's say the moment you ask me what I learned about myself in a stressful situation, and I'm like, yeah, I actually learned a whole lot about myself. So like my arms are coming in to protect, and I'm going into this like genital protective behavior. And verbally, I'm becoming very open. I might even have some forehead display and all of that, but everything else is kind of closing off. So it's also what we're seeing in this, like a manipulative style of behavior. Like you're seeing a fake openness and you're seeing a closed body, or a closing verb body. So the movement of becoming more closed.
And it's the contradiction of the two. It's the combination of things together that make up an identification versus one thing in and of itself.
Yes. So you want to look for those clusters as much as you can.
Right, got it. Okay, in talking about that woman that you were witnessing, that after like 4 or 5 seconds you're like, yeah, she's lying. There were other things that you said that you had identified that were also signals that were more verbal. So I believe it was something like she dropped the pronouns.
Yeah. So when a person is being deceptive, they'll typically use less pronouns. So if I said, Lisa, what did you do last night? You'd probably walk me through, well, I had dinner, I watched a movie, I checked some emails, washed my face, I got into bed, and I set my alarm clock and I went to sleep. If I ask somebody who's being deceptive, like let's say I asked some guy in an interview room, what did you do Wednesday night? And he says, well, left the office, checked some emails, left the office around 5, went to the liquor store, went home, played video games, went to bed. No pronouns. There's no I, there's no me, none of that. Dr. Pennebaker wrote a book called The Secret Life of Pronouns, and how they become absent when somebody's being more deceptive. But the CIA has been teaching this for a while. So you heard the pronouns drop. And that whole conversation, she was fluent, exactly like both of us are speaking right now, that she wasn't struggling for words. Everything just kind of came out naturally. And then he said, tell me about last night. What all happened last night? And she was like, well, then the pronouns went away, and she had what's called a hesitancy and a loss of verbal fluency, where she struggled for words. And because we don't really typically have to do that when it's truthful. Then we have chronology. So when you say like, oh, what happened last night? If the biggest thing that we did was we went to a giant rave, and it was like the hugest thing that we did last night. And somebody says, oh, what happened last night? You're going to say, we went to this rave. You're not going to say, well, I started getting ready at 5:15. Then I did this. Then I did this. Then we drove to this rave. But before we did the rave, I got some gum.
You're so right.
You're not going to go into chronology. You're going to go into the biggest thing that happened, right? And I'll throw a caveat here. If you say, tell me what happened last night from beginning to end, then you can't knock them for that.
Yeah.
So, but if you say like what happened last night, and someone just goes into this like chronological recollection, it very, very likely, especially if you're hearing it with those other indicators, is very likely to be deceptive. So just as an example, you have said the alphabet 50,000 times, maybe 100,000 times in your life. We struggle to tell it backwards because we rehearsed it forwards. So if you hear one of these chronological stories going forward like that, and they're not mentioning the big event first, like if you got in a car accident, God forbid, like yesterday, and I was like, Lisa, what's going on? What happened yesterday? You're like, oh, I got in a car accident. You're not going to say, I woke up at 6:30, I brushed my teeth, and then kind of lead up into it. So if I hear chronology, I might say something like, so you said you went to bed at 9, and that's when you kind of drove home. Take me from there and walk me backwards. What happened before that? So no matter how many times you rehearse a story in the correct order, when someone asks you to kind of walk backwards, you really, really struggle. But if I asked you from right now when we sat down on these couches, what happened in walking backwards to this morning when you woke up, you could do that.
Because it actually happened.
Because it's real. But if we have this chronological thing that's a rehearsed story that's not true, we really struggle to go backwards.
That's so good. The way you explained about the ABC as well, I totally get it. Yeah, so you're recalling on your memory, and that's why you can actually say it backwards, because it's a memory versus a memorization.
Yes, very good. I'm going to actually steal that.
Oh, go for it. Okay.
Looks good on a post-it note.
Yeah, it does.
Great.
My pleasure. Fascinating. Okay, coming up.
There's so many women out there that can get involved with manipulative psychopaths on the first date or in their dating life, and they don't even know that they're dealing with a psychopath.
I want to talk directly to the badass content creators watching right freaking now. When you pour time and love and energy into the content that you're creating, just like I do, you know that creating short clips for social is actually important to help people come and watch your message and your show. But it also is actually freaking tedious and time consuming. So that's why I think you're going to freaking love Opus Clips. Now, Opus Clips makes it so damn simple to convert your long form videos into short social media ready clips automatically using AI. We use Opus Clips right here on Women of Impact and Impact Theory, and every single person absolutely loves how it works so damn well to be able to clip emotional, powerful moments from these episodes that you watch to then share on social. So trust me, my homie, just go and give Clip Anything by Opus Clip a try for yourself and see how easy it is to use. Now you can actually go and try it for the next few weeks for absolutely free when you click the link in the show notes. Guys, that was absolutely free, so you have no fear of loss. Go check it out, and if you love it, use it, and if you don't use it. But I have a feeling you're gonna love it. All right, now back to the episode. I would be remiss not to ask. My audience will probably kill me if I don't. So you said you obviously teach women narcissists, and you say you usually go over the first 5. What are the first 5?
I think we've covered 4.
Okay.
So far. The final one is a bait question. So this is something that is taken from interrogation. And I'll give you the interrogation stuff first.
Okay.
So it'll be more fun. So in the interrogation, we use this thing called the punishment question. And the punishment question is, what do you think should happen to the person who did this? And the best example is when I did this with my children. I was on active duty in the military, and I come home from work one day. I'm in my camouflage outfit, and I walk in. Our living room carpet is like as white as the carpet in here, and there's a little carton of chocolate milk just sitting on its side in this big pool of chocolate milk on the carpet. And I said, guys, who knocked this milk over right here? And I looked at my son. I was like, William? And nope. Charlotte? Nope. I was like, all right, William, kitchen, Charlotte, dining room.
This is amazing. You're interrogating your kids. This is so good.
Yeah. So I said, Charlotte, did you spill that milk in the living room? No. What should happen to the person that spilled that milk? She goes, spankings, grounded, no Xbox, can't go outside, no more electronics, can't play anymore. Just kind of goes on this huge list.
Oh, she knows it's her brother just by that, right?
Yeah. But I mean, even if these people don't know each other,
right.
have a severe reaction and a soft one. So I went up to my son. I said, William, did you spill the milk in there? No. What should happen? What do you think I should do to the person who spilled that milk in the living room? And he goes, no more chocolate milk in the living room? With a question mark at the end. So it's just such a great question, and it's so powerful. And I'll give you one more interrogation technique that can apply in a lot of these dating scenarios too. When the scenario that I gave to this women's group was to automatically bring up the 800-pound gorilla. to bring it up and say, you know what, there's so many women out there that can get involved with manipulative psychopaths on the first date or in their dating life, and they don't even know that they're dealing with a psychopath. And you bring it up directly, and you watch exactly how that person starts to respond. Do they start breathing into their chest more? Does their blink rate start going up? And then the second part of this question that we talked to this group was, so in your opinion, I know these guys are out there, what do you think should happen to these people that are these manipulative guys that go on dates with these girls? That's where the question comes in. And you're going to reveal so much, so fast, just by asking a question like that. So in the interrogation room, it's what should happen to the person that did this? If they are that person, you're pulling all of that power out and you're letting them know that you may not be the right target or the right mark. But you're also watching, do they get nervous? Do they sit back? Do they get more defensive? Do they start blinking more often? Am I seeing all this stress come up in their body the moment that I put that elephant right out there on the table?
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. It's these little things I wouldn't even think about that end up, they do reveal who they are. And that's why I like to thank you for sharing a lot of this. I think that these are moments where if we can really take these tools and implement them, it could potentially save either people's lives or just heartbreak. I mean, it can save so many women. So thank you.
And to throw one more thing onto that is, I want you to take one of your friends who was involved with a narcissist and start talking how he manipulated her right in front of this person. And watch how they react. Watch his behavior. And in most real people, you're going to be like, that's disgusting. That's horrifying. And then some people will be like real quiet about it. You'll see their lips tighten up. And if you see lips squeezed together, every time that's withheld opinions. Every time. Think if you like asked me like, oh, Chase, how do you like your new job? And I'm like, oh, it's great. There's opinions being withheld, right? So be on the lookout for that, especially when you bring up those elephants in the room. And I would say when the interaction is beginning, be okay with openly talking about narcissism. Your friend got involved in it. It's not you. Don't talk about yourself. Your friend got involved with it. It was so horrible. It's so hard to detect these people. And if they go, yeah, it's disgusting, I hate that behavior, which a narcissist can do, then you go, what do you think should happen to that kind of person? So it leads into that question.
That was amazing.
The more sensitive information you need, the less questions we need to be asking. So the first type of elicitation is a provocative statement. And this is any statement that elicits a response. So when we use statements, the brain feels like it's voluntarily giving the information not in response to a question, so that the information is something that naturally comes up and it doesn't feel like they're engaged in anything where something is being revealed. That's taboo, right? And this is used to get secrets from other country intelligence officers and stuff like that. It's very effective. And this will typically start with the word so or I bet. So somebody says they are an accountant, you say, I bet that has got to be stressful. I didn't ask a question. He's going to talk about the stress, the stuff they deal with, and then right after he's done, like, yeah, but blah, 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 and then at the end of that, I'll say, wow, that is remarkable how you just put up with that day in and day out. There's got to be something rewarding about it, though. I didn't ask a question. So now they're going to double down on the negativity. Their boss is an asshole. They're going to keep going into that. And then let's say we're continuing to use elicitation, and I want more data to just keep flowing out. Now I'll switch over to disbelief. And they say, it's this bad and this bad. My manager is a dickhead. Oh, I got to do all this stuff. And I'm like, there is no possible way that your job is that bad. It's got to be like, because I've talked to people who work for the same company before, and they seem like they really enjoy what they do. That's it. That's all I have to say. And that's disbelief. It's not I'm calling somebody a liar, but I'm saying there's no way it's that stressful. I've talked to some people that work at that company. That, oh my God, you have no idea. And you're going to hear more information come out. And so in a persuasion scenario, I'm using this technique to make your brain think that you're talking to a friend, because if I get them to complain or I get them to start giving up information, your brain now says, oh, he is a friend, like he is connected to him. So we've gone from a provocative statement to a little bit of disbelief, and then we have something called triggering the need to correct the record, which comes after that. This is a technique that was initially invented, I think, in the 80s by a guy named John Nolan. So, like, if you and I were standing at Erewhon, which is like Whole Foods for anybody watching that's not a Californian, and I'd say, Lisa, I want you to go figure out, there's somebody stocking baby carrots over there. You go figure out how much they make in under 60 seconds, and you're not allowed to use any questions. That's tough, because the money is a sensitive topic, right? We can't say, hey, how much do you make for a living? But what if you went up to that person who's stocking these baby carrots, and you asked for help, and on the way you said, I can't remember where it was, but I saw this article that said everybody who works at Erewhon just got bumped up to $28 an hour. That is fantastic. I'm really glad that you guys are doing that. And they look at you like, what? Everybody here makes 19 unless you're a manager, unless you're whatever. So you've got the information that you need. So that's called triggering a need to correct the record. And there's many other techniques you can do, but some of those, you can get people to start revealing their true self. You can get sensitive information. So the rule of thumb is the more sensitive the information that you need, the less questions you need to be asking. It needs to be statement driven.
That's amazing. And so I always think about these things as being able to work both ways. So it's if you want to get the truth out of somebody, but also, again, going back to if you're worried about being manipulated without your knowledge, these are things that you can start to be aware of. So you talk about something called fog and kava? I don't know how to pronounce it.
However you like.
Okay, kava. There you go. Talk to me about those strategies and what we can learn from them as a female worried about being either around a psychopath or a narcissist or dating one.
So kava is all about end results. So I'm either seeing control, acceptance, validation, or attention. That's the only four things you're going to really see one of these guys look for. So is their behavior about control, some kind of acceptance or something like that? I need to be accepted. Validation, I need you to see how smart I am, how tough I am, how cool I am, how strong I am, how powerful I am, whatever. Or attention. So anytime we're with any narcissist, you need to understand those internal operating system of that kava acronym of what am I seeing this person do? And it's crystal clear. Once you just understand that acronym, I can tell this person's not about controlling my time and all this stuff. They're not about making sure that they fit into this group, or they're some kind of weird conformist. They don't need validation all the time. It's just my attention. They're craving my attention. So whatever their desired outcome is also their greatest fear of loss. So now we know what they're most afraid of losing is the attention, right? Or the control.
So how would that actually then look, let's say in the dating world, what actions would happen? Would it be they're trying to take you away from that person that's close to you because they need the attention?
Yes, so there's two ways. There's carrot and stick. So you start, let's call him Billy, your 8th grade buddy that you still talk to. So I just see all these Facebook notifications for like Facebook Messenger on your phone. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? And I see you responding to him a lot. I don't say anything to you, but all of a sudden I order flowers to the house. I'm doing all this kind of crazy stuff because I think your attention's elsewhere. So I'm using carrot at this point to make sure I've got all of your attention. So that's carrot. And the stick is I confront you and I say, hey, this is either me or him. You're like, bro, we like jumped on trampolines together 30 years ago. Like, it's not a big deal. But that's when you'll have that conversation, like it's me or him. And there's a carrot and a stick for all of these. So if I want to control you and I don't want to be like dictate what you're allowed to do, where you're allowed to go, I'm going to make it really good. I'm going to try to structure our time together to where we're going to do fun stuff. We're going to a church that I picked. We're going to fill in the blank. So I'm just going to structure your time, your focus, and your energy. So I'm in kind of control of where you're going, but I'm doing it in a way that it looks to you like we're doing things together.
And I've heard, it was Dr. Ramani actually that said, just try and change plans on a narcissist, see how they respond.
Yeah, especially if it's the control. If it's attention, then that will be okay. And if it's validation, and you try to change plans and say, hey, we're going to this other thing, that's going to piss them off. If you say, hey, we're going to do this other thing because I know you're into this, this, and this, and everybody admires you because of those things, and I think this would be the perfect thing to do. So you give the validation. So you're learning how to control and how to like start taking psychological control over the narcissist. And the second thing is to learn what they're using is the FOG acronym. And this is fear, obligation, or guilt. Those are the three things that people are going to use to either get your control, your attention, your approval, your acceptance, or whatever else they're trying to get from you is through FOG, fear, obligation, and guilt. So those are, I think, mostly easy for most people to get. But when you start seeing it, that's one of the times that you can start calling things out, but you do it in a way that's non-confrontational. So if I have somebody here that says, like, if you do this again, this is going to happen, then you start calling it out and say, wait, just so I understand, you are wanting me to do this, this, and this, and if I don't do this, you're going to do this. So you take all of their manipulation tactics, pretend like maybe I don't understand it all the way. Let me break this all down. So I'm taking like this little thing that you sent me in this secured envelope you don't want anybody to look at. I'm like, well, oh, hold on a sec. Let's open this up. I'm going to lay all this shit out on the table so we can all look at it together. Let's all take a look. And that's one of the best ways to do it.
Could you ground it in like an example? So let's say, for instance, out of the carver, someone's looking to control you. How would they use FOG, fear, obligation, guilt?
Yeah.
As a real example, what would that look like?
Pick one of the CAVA acronyms.
Okay, so control.
So somebody wants control, and they want to use which out of the
Guilt.
FOG? They want to use guilt.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll use your name for this. So I'll say, Lisa, the last time that you went out, some weird stuff happened, and it made me feel awful. You went out for your girls' night. I didn't hear back from you. You didn't text me for like 3 hours in a row. And I don't know, maybe it was bad service or something, but I sat back here at the house, worried if you were dead. I was sitting back here just worrying about you the whole entire time because you didn't check in with me, you didn't tell me where you were going, you didn't make sure you're in an area where I could even see your GPS location. And it makes me wonder, like, am I in a relationship with someone who even cares about how I'm feeling? That's exactly what that would look like.
Ooh, can I give you one more? That was so good.
Yeah.
All right, so let's do carver, let's do validation, and then let's take FOG, let's do obligation, because I don't know how that would actually pan out.
Okay, and I'll use you again.
Please do.
I hate acting this way.
You're so good,
But,
though. I love this. Because here's what it does. It really grounds it into what that would actually look like. So thank you for doing this.
Okay. So, all right. Lisa, I know that we've had this conversation several times, but you've told me that you support me. You've told me that you're here for me. You've told me that I'm the one bringing in the most money, so my career is the most important. Am I correct that you said those things?
Yes, you are.
I mean, we both agreed on this, and I'm not trying to like manipulate you or anything, but I'm going to work every single day. I've done this online college throughout the nights. I've done all of these things, and not once in the past 2 freaking weeks have you said anything to me that I've gone above and beyond for everybody in this household. And I don't know, maybe you're manipulating me or something, but I haven't heard anything from you, and you promised me that these are your priorities.
I see it all.
Okay, good.
That was so good. Because, and I even love that you even dropped in, like, I'm not trying to manipulate you, I'm just saying the truth. Like, that is almost a form of a manipulation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And you'll hear that comment like, I don't think you're trying to manipulate me, but, and they'll say that to you.
Okay, so I have a quote of yours that it's very simple, but just hit me like a ton of bricks. Mind control is pretty easy.
It is.
Talk to me about how easy mind control is and what are the steps of somebody influencing us.
If I could sum up mind control in one phrase, one sentence, it would be the ability to weaponize cognitive dissonance.
Ooh.
And if you think about how you get involved with a narcissist in a relationship and why you stay, that's weaponizing cognitive dissonance. If I can weaponize cognitive dissonance, I can get you to do anything. So cognitive dissonance is about your identity and who you think you are as a person. And in a narcissist relationship, it's, I'm a good wife, I'm a good woman, I'm a good supporter, I'm a good mom, I'm gonna stay here for the kids. So it's about identity. So if the moment something comes up that might challenge that identity, like my friend says, oh, Jennifer, you need to leave this relationship, I automatically delete that because it goes against what I believe first. And I would encourage anyone out there to just spend some time learning about cognitive dissonance. Because if you're doing mind control on a person, whether you're creating some crazy assassin to go do some CIA stuff, or you're manipulating somebody on a date, it's cognitive dissonance that you're creating. So you're kind of getting someone to build an identity, and there's 6 avenues to influencing the human brain. And these are focus. Can I get you to focus on me or the situation or whatever I want you to? Openness. How open can I get you to get so I can make you more vulnerable? And then we have connection. And connection is the degree to which a person feels like they are in sync with another person, just naturally connected. And then we have suggestibility. And this is the degree to which you will accept suggestions from someone. Like, maybe we should do X. And then you'll say, yeah, I will do that. It's like the ideal cult member. It's super high suggestible. Then we have compliance. And compliance is the degree to which you will accept and then act on those independently. So not us together, you'll do something independently. So that's compliance. And then expectancy. And expectancy is the degree to which you can generally predict the future of what we're doing here, what's going on, is going to be positive. So if we take an extreme example, where total strangers were talked into committing murder in less than an hour, and this is the famous Milgram experiment. People thought they were volunteering for an experiment about learning. They go into this room at Yale University. It's got this shocking machine in there. And there's another volunteer who's actually an actor, and you watch him get strapped to this machine, and he's about to get shocked, and you're the person that's supposed to be shocking him, and he's right on the other side of this wall. And you read him these questions, and he answers through a push button. It says like A, B, C, D. And every time he gets one wrong, you shock him and increase the voltage a little bit. Wrong, shock, increase voltage. So there's only one volunteer, which is you. The other guy's an actor. The guy in the lab coat is an actor who's like the scientist running the experiment. He looks like a doctor. He's got a clipboard and a lab coat and all this stuff. At about the midway point, you can hear him screaming.
The actor is screaming, the guy that's getting the electric shock.
Right, he's not getting shocked,
right.
But you
think he is.
We damn sure think he is. And he's saying, I don't want to do this anymore. I have a heart condition. Let me out of here. And you turn around to this guy in the lab coat, and you're like, what do you want me to do? And the guy in the lab coat says, the experiment requires that you continue. Please continue. So you keep shocking. He's screaming, and around 300 volts, he stops making any sound. It's dead silent. And he's not answering the questions anymore. There's nothing coming from the other room. You turn around to the lab coat guy again, like, what do you want me to do, bro? And he says the same thing. Any non-answer must be treated as an incorrect answer. Please continue. I keep going. Then it finally gets to, on the machine, it's labeled danger, severe shock, 450 volts. Shocking this person that you believe might be dead. And there's even clips of these people saying, oh, he might be dead in there. So let's think about, like, when it comes to persuasion and influence, people think it's hard to sell a car. People think it's hard to go on a date and talk someone into dating you. I would argue that it's harder to talk someone into murder. So when it comes to that 6-axis model, this is our hyper-responsiveness to authority. So like there's brand new things happening all the time, which is generating a ton of focus. And is there a lot of connection in this experiment? There's not. Is there expectancy? There's none. They don't know what the hell is going to happen next, or that it's positive. And there's no openness. the person's not sitting there shocking them, talking about their life secrets and all these little insecurities and stuff that they have. So all we have is focus, suggestibility, and compliance. And you get someone to become a murderer in less than an hour. So when we look at that 6-axis model, we're looking at a model where if you just capture 3 of those things, you can get someone to do almost anything. If you get 6, you're unlimited. You have unlimited control over a human being. But to capture control over a human being, you need 4 other things that are even more powerful than that 6-axis, and that's the fate model. And fate is how we control a animal brain. And we have a kind of an animal brain underneath our human one. So our brain evolved, so we think, in layers. And none of our mammalian brain can speak English. It's incapable of language completely. So if you think back to the Milgram experiment where people were made to be murderers, there's no cell script. There's no hypnosis being used. So there's no language. And that's so many people focus on the language. And if you think back to, like, if you've ever watched somebody maybe got away with something that they shouldn't have gotten away with, our first question in our head is, what did you say?
Oh.
What'd you say? And it's never what we say. It's what am I doing to control that mammalian brain? And if you think about just Cesar Millan, the dog whisperer guy, he uses that fate model, F-A-T-E. That's focus, authority, tribe, and emotion. This is the 4 ways to control an animal. If you get them all together, you have full control over the animal. If you control the animal, you control the human. So focus, and we know focus is generated through novelty. So especially in hearing this in terms of manipulators, if I'm seeing a lot of this weird novelty behavior, like that's developing a tremendous amount of focus. Because anytime something is new, our brain says, this is different. I didn't expect this. I don't have an app for this, right? So I need to pay attention. The second part is authority. And when it comes to authority, you sincerely are looking at a mixture of 5 things. And this is confidence, discipline, leadership, gratitude, and enjoyment. Those 5 factors trigger the human brain to think this person is an authority figure.
So as they're going through the study and the guys in the white lab coat, it seemed like in that moment, the manipulation is, I'm the authority, I know what's happening, you just need to follow my lead.
Correct. So our brains do not have a firewall, and they're riddled with loopholes. And this is the biggest loophole in the human brain, is response to authority. And this guy in the lab coat didn't need all this confidence and all this other stuff. All he needed was a little bit of composure and a lab coat, which is a loophole. And our brain says, oh, lab coat, doctor, medicine, that's an authority figure. So it's a bypass. So that's a perception of authority. If I can get you to perceive authority, you'll typically do what that person says to do. And it'll be incremental. I'm not going to say go jump off the building. I'm going to say, hey, step off of this carpet over here. Just take 1 step off. So these are incremental small compliances. It's something you really need to watch out for. Am I getting incrementally asked to comply or do something in this relationship? It's kind of a wedge. So there's small things starting and kind of escalating over time. Then we can move into tribe. And when we get into tribe, we will do what the tribe does. And this is almost, there's maybe 10 people in the world who this doesn't apply to. Maybe you have a neurological condition or something like that. But any human will do what the tribe does. There's a study by this guy named Dr. Solomon Asch, and this was in the mid-70s, I think. And he has a card where there's 3 lines on it. They're all of different lengths. Then there's a card over here that has 1 line that's the same length as one of these lines on this card. And the task is simple. You look at all these 3 lines. Which line over here is equal to that line? Super easy. But there were 10 people at this table. 9 of them were actors. Only 1 of them was a volunteer. So as clear as day, the correct answer is A. As clear as can be. But when they go down the line of all these people, it's C, 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 C. And it gets to this last person, they go, C. Because everybody else did it. And that was 100%.
Wow.
100% of people would start going along with the crowd. Especially when it's public and when you make our behaviors public. When you have to write them down on a piece of paper, they chose the right one.
Yeah, I mean, look, when I think about going back to the tribe thing, they say now loneliness is worse than smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It's worse than obesity. It's worse than alcoholism. So I go, okay, if loneliness is that bad for us, think about it. For survival mechanism back in the tribe days is that, well, of course, you would not want to be ostracized from your group, because that could mean either loneliness, hence, bad for your health, or actual death, because the bear's going to eat you and you've got no one to help. So being ostracized from a biological standpoint makes complete sense. But then it goes to, why do we not speak up?
Yeah, it's the ultimate taboo to talk about. Because let's go back to those tribal days. If I'm outcast from my tribe, who do I tell? So we're not allowed to talk about loneliness, and there's an epidemic of loneliness right now. And the number one thing that everybody should take from this is technology has outpaced our brain's ability to adapt. So like, if you think that, like if you're scrolling Instagram, TikTok, or whatever during the day, anybody that believes their brain is immune to a $1 trillion computer is a moron. I don't think I'm immune, and I know every tactic in the book, every single mind control, hypnosis trick, everything you could ever find, I've got it. And I'm terrified of social media. I'm not immune to it. And it's an artificial placebo for tribe, but it doesn't give the brain fulfillment. It gives the brain this little weird placebo effect, top layer, without fulfilling any part of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I'm a big believer in Maslow's pyramid. So if I have this like social love, belonging, connectedness level, which is like, we have like basic survival, like food and water and sex, and then we have belonging and all that other stuff. If that's pulled out, I can never go above that. Whatever level of Maslow's pyramid you are at in your life, you are automatically programmed genetically to worry about the thing right below it. So if I'm in this confidence thing, my worry is about this social belonging and all this other stuff. That's where I'm going to fall down to if my confidence goes away. So this is like the self-actualization part of the pyramid. And if I lose this belonging and love, then I'm worried about, like, I'm at survival level, like food and water. So if I lose that sense of belonging, everything's gone. My confidence, my sense of self, my well-being, my self-actualization, everything goes away because that one piece of the pyramid was pulled out.
Speaking of that then, social connection and technology, I think of the dating apps. It's like we've got the best commercial of what we look like. So it isn't necessarily the reality, just like the highlights. How would you even tell then, if you're on a dating app and you're looking at people's profiles, what on earth would you look for to see if they're authentic or if they're trying to hide something?
When you're looking, how polished is the image? Do they need to do 10 takes before they put a photo up? Do they need, like, am I looking at a polished, presented thing here, or am I looking at a person who is comfortable with social injury? And I would say it's hard. First of all, it's very hard on a dating app. You're not always going to get accurate information because, I mean, there's so much AI now. AI could have written that description. The pictures could be AI. It may not even be a human that exists. Who knows? But I would say that if I was on a dating app today, aside from all the photos, the number one thing I would look for is there a statement of even tiny hint of vulnerability inside of that? I'm healthy, I run a lot of blah, 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 but somehow I'm addicted to Cheetos or something like that, something that's human. So am I seeing vulnerability? That's the only thing that I would be looking for. Do I see in the photos, in the description, real human being vulnerability?
Is there a statement or a question that you can ask that person that shows your vulnerability to then test them to see if they'll use it against you? Because again, going back to like the struggles that women really have is they put themselves out there, you go online dating, you meet this guy, and you're trying to know if they're sincere. Are they just trying to get, a one night stand? Are they just lying to, get a night with me? So I just figured, how would you even test to see if they were sincere on an app?
I have a perfect question. It's one question.
Oh.
Are you authentic?
Just literally asking someone if they're authentic.
Yeah, because the inauthentic people are going to be like, oh yeah, absolutely. And the people who are genuinely authentic will kind of sit back and reflect on it for a second. You're going to see them genuinely think like, well, I think so. I mean, I have this thing that I kind of hide from people. I'm worried about some aspects. I hide some parts of myself. And you'll hear the answer. You're going to hear a lot less hesitation from somebody who is inauthentic when you ask, are you an authentic person? They're like, yeah, absolutely. I'm the most authentic person you're ever going to meet. But I think it's going to be wildly different responses between those two different types of people.
The most inauthentic thing you can say.
Correct.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And the final E on the fate is emotion. So like, am I getting love bombed? There's a ton of this dopamine right at the beginning so that I'm continually coming back for this thing. I'm getting this love bombing and I'm getting resource bombing. But the most important final element of this is, what am I being told to do quickly? Where am I being told I don't have enough time to really think about things? And if somebody says, hey, we're doing this, are you in or out? I only have one thing left. We've only got one seat left on the helicopter, whatever that is. I need to know in the next 5 minutes. That should be very, very scary. We're tribally wired in our DNA to respond to scarcity. Scarcity of water, scarcity of food, scarcity of social connection, whatever it is. Where am I being told that I don't have time to think about decisions? So the best insulator, number one insulator to prevent that stuff from happening is to say, I'm going to unplug this video game for one day before I plug it back in and think about it. Then all the dopamine's gone, and all I'm doing is, which is hard to do, is all I'm going to do is pause. So I have all this stuff, I have the focus, I've got all of this authority, I've got this tribal involvement here, I've got emotional involvement with this dopamine and resource bombing, love bombing. All I'm going to do, I'm not going to say stop, because it may be something good. Maybe it's a new church, and it's like churches do all kinds of stuff now. They sing and dance and do all kinds of stuff. It might be something that's good for you. Maybe it's a new therapist or a new group that you're joining that is not a cult at all. They have all of those elements: focus, authority, tribal emotion. Good things have those too. But if you push pause on those good things, you'll still feel good during the pause. If you push pause on the bad things, you're going to feel like shit because your dopamine's crashing. That's the difference.
Wow, and that scarcity, I mean, everything you just broke down was amazing and fascinating. And then thinking about the scarcity part, I mean, it's the biggest sales tactic, right? Like, special offer, ends tonight at 8 p.m., get it now, only 1 hour left. And so that, oh my God, what if I miss out? What if I miss out? Then makes you make decisions without the clarity. So that's fascinating. And then you said something earlier about you being, I can't remember the word you used, but basically you're the brainwash master. And so I want to ask you, how on earth did Jeffrey Epstein and P. Diddy brainwash so many people for so long without being identified? If we can discover this and figure this out, I really hope there isn't another Diddy in waiting.
Okay, so this is a unique scenario where money and status was probably the most effective tool that they used. What is money? That's access to the bottom two levels of Maslow's pyramid. That's resources. I can get you food, I can get you a house, so I get you survival and resources, right? So that's money. And what's status? If I'm connected to somebody who's really high status, that's automatically, boom, love, belonging, and connection. Does this make sense? Now we're looking at Maslow's pyramid again. So then they become persuasion experts because they fulfill Maslow's pyramid or Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And there's a part two. So let's say I've got you into my little cult here. My next step is, all right, I've got to get Lisa to agree to participate in all this crazy shit that's going on here. So I have to make sure that it's okay with you. So this is where they would follow, and I'm hypothesizing here,
sure.
But this is where they would follow what I would call an interrogation formula. And to get you to confess, there's like 4 things I need to do. I need to socialize, minimize, rationalize, and project. So if we're in an interrogation, let's say you stole $10,000. I'd say, Lisa,
Can we do something like have an affair?
Yeah.
Because that's something that I think a lot of my audience struggle with. Like, I'm not sure if my guy's cheating on me.
Oh, yeah. So let's go through socialize, minimize, rationalize, and projecting it. So, like, this, I think a lot of people would understand. And this, would anybody looking from the outside, this would make perfect sense. And it does make perfect sense because we haven't been intimate in a very long time. And you're a man, you need intimacy. So that's socialize, rationalize, then we minimize. And in all reality, it was just a night with some girl. It wasn't a big deal. This is not a big deal. People go through really big problems in relationships. This is not a huge thing. Now project. Now it's not, project is when it's not your fault. So at the end of the day, this makes sense. And this is not your fault. I brought this on you. I knew that you were a man. I knew you had needs, and I knew you needed to fulfill those, and I chose not to do it. So, John, all I'm really asking here is this something you've been doing for like 10 years, or is this like you made a mistake? So that's called the alternative question. So, like, let's say you took $10,000. I would say, were you stealing this for human trafficking? Or, and I'm exaggerating here. Were you stealing this to fund human trafficking, or were you trying to pay your aunt's chemotherapy bills? Because I think you are a good person. So at the end, that alternative question is, all I want to know is, like, has this been happening for years, or is this just a little mistake that you made? So if it was a mistake, then we can get through this and we can get past it. You're not saying I'm not going to break up with you. You're not making promises, nothing like that. You can say we can move past it. We can get through it, which is meaningless, but it helps the person to be more vulnerable and saying, okay, yeah, I haven't been doing this for years. I promise I haven't been doing this for years. Just a one-time mistake. So it's that socialize, minimize, rationalize, project, and then that alternative question. Is it this bad thing, or did you just make a mistake? And that is the best way to get somebody to confess.
Wow.
So back to Epstein. So now I have to use those same techniques to make you think that it's okay. So, and this is a cult doing the same thing. So now you come in here.
Thank you, by the way, for calling them cults. I think it's really important. I think they are
It is
cults.
a cult, yeah. And not all cults are bad. I was in the U.S. military, which is very much...
Oh, you'd call the U.S. military a
cult-like.
cult? Oh.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you join this organization, they shave your head. They control your entire life. They make you chant all these things all at the same time. You have to walking in the same steps in this marching line. So it's very, very cult-like. So let's say you've just joined into this little Epstein group. Socialize is number one. I have to convince you that lots of people are doing this. Look at all these people that are doing this. These are powerful people, so I'm using authority, that are doing this. These are rich people. Everybody is sane here, and this is okay. It's socially okay. And it makes sense. So now we're into rationalize. And it makes sense because X, Y, and Z. There's all these people doing it. We have natural instincts as human beings. We're hardwired for sex. Men are hardwired to like younger women. I feel disgusting saying this, but, and then we minimize. And in reality, they're old enough to consent, and these people are old enough to make their own decisions, and it's not a big deal. We're just having fun for like 30 minutes, and everybody's enjoying it. That's minimize. And then project. And it's not your fault. It's programmed into human DNA. Everybody has these feelings. It's just a few people that are brave enough to act on them. So I'm socializing it, I'm rationalizing it, minimizing it, and projecting so you don't feel at blame. And in reality, the projection may be onto Epstein himself. They're like, well, Epstein invited me here. Epstein gave me alcohol. Epstein introduced me to this girl. Epstein said, hey, go get a massage. Go into this other room. So that final part of projection may not be some verbal thing that happens. It may just be like, I'm kind of an agent. I'm acting on behalf of. I'm doing this because something happened. So that projection is that final step that allows, I'm going to do something that I would never normally do, which is like confessing to a crime or doing some crazy stuff with one of these idiots. So that projection takes place as the final step. So like I don't want to do this. This is not really who I am. And then somebody says, it's not a big deal and it's not your fault at all. It's someone else's fault that you're about to do this. And it gives you this opening freedom. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, 1,000%. And it's, especially the Diddy thing, I didn't really know Epstein until this whole thing had happened, so it wasn't really on my radar until then. But I grew up listening to Diddy. I grew up listening to all of his music and idolizing him. at 18 years old, if I came to America and I was invited to a P. Diddy party, I would have gone. If I was invited to the back room of a P. Diddy party, I would have gone. And so thinking about how a lot of women are impressionable and how people use that against us and how that becomes the big trap. So that's one of the things I'm always trying to grasp at, because I really do fear there's a P. Diddy in waiting. Because we went from Harvey Weinstein to Epstein to Diddy. Like, it feels like there's a lot of powerful, I hate to say it, but a lot of powerful men that are using money and power for nefarious reasons. And so I can't impact or make a guy not do it, but I can hopefully try and teach and bring on people that can start to shine a light on the traps that we get into. I mean, you hear some of these stories, it shapes the women for the rest of their lives. One of the women that was on like Making of the Band, you see a video of her when she first meets Diddy. She looks so sweet and innocent. And then you see a video of her now, admits she's just fucked up.
Yeah.
And that type of impact on so many different women, I really want to put a stop to it. So grasping out what are the things that they're looking for, how do we get trapped, and then how does it get hidden for so long? Like, those are the things that I'm really trying to figure out, so that hopefully each way we can try and stop these people from doing it.
Yeah, the reason that it gets hidden for so long is that it goes back to what we've been talking about. In every scenario, this always comes back. It's a fear of social injury. My tapes are going to be released. Someone's going to expose me. All my secrets are going to be there. So like, that's Maslow's pyramid. It's going to delete that level, and everything above it disappears once that level goes away. And in reality, what people need to do, especially young girls, I have a daughter who's 17, and you need to think, am I being influenced by authority? Am I seeing authority or a good person? Because especially for the female brain, it's hardwired to respond to like male authority, like tribal leader status. And that bypasses a lot of your critical abilities of like, is this good for me? Is this the right thing to do? Should I be doing this? Is it healthy? Authority trumps a lot of that. And so anytime you start programming your kids, and I would say this to moms and dads everywhere, this starts when they're 4, this starts when they're 3, and they go to the doctor, and your behavior around that doctor will dictate how they behave around authority. Will you tell your kid, like, that doctor is your employee, you're in charge of the doctor, you tell the doctor what to do, you tell the doctor the problems, the doctor works for you. I'm not telling my kid to be a dick, we're still respectful, we say Mr., Mrs., yes ma'am, yes sir. But you're in charge of that doctor. So we start teaching early on, recognize the difference between authority and perceived authority. Those two things. It's the biggest thing we can teach our kids. It's the biggest thing I could ever pass on to, especially young girls that are watching your podcast. So recognize the authority. Where is my focus being trapped? So like, is someone saying, don't go out anymore, don't go to that place anymore, you need to hang out with us for 1 straight week. So I need when is someone trying to narrow down my level of focus and attention? It's being narrowed on something, then there's an authority figure, and what's the final element? It's the tribe. And now it's everybody's doing this is socially acceptable. I'm seeing lots of people agree with this. I'm seeing lots of other people comply. So it's just like the lines experiment, where which line is here, which line is there, and everybody's saying this. I'll say something that defies reality just because other people did the same thing.
That's fascinating. And then one other thing I think is a lot of us women have been taught to not listen to our gut intuition. And we just see what the expert says. We don't necessarily tap in. We just go, well, they're the expert, they must know. And you actually have a list of, if you focus on these 5 things, your gut intuition will be clearer and louder. Do you mind taking us through those 5 things?
So managing and being completely in charge of your environment is step number 1. And this is everything about you. So like, if you go out and you want to look like you've got your shit together, you need to have your shit together. It makes so much difference in our psychology and how much control we have over ourselves and the world around us. If I want control of me, that starts with where I spend my time. Do I pick up after myself? Do I put the toothbrush back where it's supposed to go? And then time. The number one thing about time, and I could go on for 2 hours about time management and all that, but is our whole lives, people tell us to spend time. And we use the phrase spend time, but no one teaches us the difference between spending time and investing it. So a lot of people don't ever learn the difference between spending and investing time. Then we have appearance. And appearance is how I move, how I walk, how I carry myself. And if I find myself moving faster than I should in social situations, I'm becoming more suggestible because my fear levels are increasing. This could be social anxiety, it could be anything. When we see the body speed up in these processes, we see these rapid movements, we're seeing increase of fear, which makes you more suggestible, which means you'll be hyper responsive to authority and tribe. Because like, if I'm really scared, what am I going to do? I'm going to do what everybody else is doing. So I'm going to respond to the tribe. So environment, time, appearance, and we're naturally wired, especially women will kind of compare themselves to other women all the time. We're hardwired to compare ourselves to other people. Since that wiring is built into your brain, the best way that you can compare yourself to other people is, am I calmer than the other person? Can I be the calmest person in the room? And if that's a little too abstract for you, then take it down to speed of your body. Can I make my body the slowest moving person in the room? To where all of my movements are slow, deliberate, careful, and I'm slower than the other person. I'm not competing on hierarchy or status or bank accounts or anything else. Just who is calmer? Can I out-calm everybody else? And especially for narcissists, this is really bad. Because if you're willing to move slower and be calmer, and let's say I'm the woman and I'm getting all of this stuff like thrown at me, this kind of manipulation tactics, and I'm moving really slowly, I'm just looking like this, and if I'm more calm than you are, I'm also more willing to sit here in silence and stare at you after you've just finished talking and just contemplate. And the mistake that I hear most people say is like when they're telling you, oh, you need to stop and wait and pause and like look someone in the eye. Doing that as a tactic will not work as effectively as if you're doing it and considering what someone said. So you're using the time instead of using a trick.
Oh, yeah.
So just considering what they're said takes a lot of the pressure off of you, a lot of the fear, any of that stuff is gone because I'm not using some tactic. I'm just stopping to think about what somebody said. And if I hear something manipulative, I'm going to say, maybe I misheard that. So you said, and I'm going to go back and walk them through every single thing, but I'll take the blame. I'll say, I may have misheard you. That happens to me every once in a while. So let me just rephrase this and make sure I understood. So any manipulative phrase, take that blame and then rephrase it and make sure you're taking those things out and laying them out on the table so there's no denying it, and you make them agree. Like, is this correct? Is this correct, what all this shit I've just laid out here? So that would be the appearance. And then it's social, and this is having a good social network of 3D humans, 3D human beings. It's so important. And if you have a really tight social network, and you can go find one, go to a gym, go to a yoga class, go meet some people, get a 3D group of friends, because if you have a fulfilled tribe level of Maslow, you won't be seeking it in someone at a bar. That's that social level. And then our financial stuff. If you look at the statistics of people that are joining cults, all the way back to like the Branch Davidians, people who are joining have financial problems. They've got financial shit going on in their life. So figure out like whatever you've got to do to get your financial stuff in order. You're not getting late payments on bills. You're not doing all of that. And if you can't do all of that like in a day, which most people can't, get started. Do one thing, and that's going to take that ease off of your mind to where you're worried about resources on that bottom level of Maslow's pyramid. Because if I'm worried about that, I can use that to manipulate the shit out of you. It makes you more vulnerable to influence because you're viewing yourself as faking it when you're trying to look successful, or you're viewing yourself as not enough, I'm not good enough. So it makes you more suggestible and more easily manipulated. And I'm not saying your financial problems are out there for everybody to see. It just makes you worry more. And when you're worried about other things outside, then you're more easy to manipulate.
Well, I've never heard of that's how you start to listen to your gut intuition. And it makes complete sense. Let me just repeat what I think make sure that I actually fully understand it. So you're saying so often we are unable to tap into our gut intuition because there's a lot of worries and things that we have that distract us and pull our attention away to not go inwards, but to always be outwards. But if we focus on all of these things one by one, it gives us the space to then be able to pause, and it allows us to go inwards and go, that felt weird. Why did it feel weird? Instead of rushing past it.
Yes, perfectly said. That needs to be on a t-shirt.
That's pretty long. So if we do all of that and we start to trust our gut intuition, mixed with all of the tactics that you've just given us, thank you. Like when I show up every day, it is in the effort to actually help people. Like no BS, actually give them the tactics. And when it comes to the subtle manipulation tactics that get used on us, that we don't realize, we end up losing our confidence, not trusting our gut intuition. And unfortunately, that often can lead to toxicity in a relationship. And I've just done a lot of interviews with criminal psychologists and things like that, where you see it unfortunately go to coercive control, to stalking, to murder.
Yeah.
So, Chase, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find you, all the amazing work and your book and everything that you're up to?
Just NCI, which is the system that we teach, like N for November, CI.university.
We'll put a link. And so any socials? You're on YouTube?
I'm on YouTube.
There you go. He's on YouTube. Guys, like I just said, it is so important that we women take the ownership to learn these things. It isn't our fault that we weren't taught it. It isn't our fault that maybe we've been trapped before in past relationships because we didn't know any better. That isn't our fault. But let's ideally start taking the steps that it will need for us to learn this stuff so that we can spread it to our friends, spread it to our daughters, spread it to our sisters, our mothers, anybody out there that could be susceptible to getting themselves trapped in any scenario, whether it's with a narcissist all the way to a psychopath. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Please do go follow Chase. And if you're not following me, click that follow button down there. Until next time, guys, be the hero of your own life. Peace.
And ignore the fact that you pointed at me when she said psychopath.
No, did I say Chase? But I pointed at you. I meant this way, guys. Think that you can spot a psychopath? Well, click here and learn about the 20 red flags that will make you question the man lying next to you.
The art of manipulation is someone making you do things and you don't even realize you're doing it. When someone's been gaslit by an expert manipulator, they don't
What time is it? Oh, yeah, I got 3 hours in. What is up, everyone? Oh. Sleep in. I love all the hellos when I wake up. It's so sweet. Alright. Let's end this live and start one in a minute.